Hey guys, tonight we're not boarding a ship, we're not chasing pirates, and we're definitely not dealing with any sweaty sailors arguing over treasure maps they can't read. Instead, we're drifting into something far older, far stranger, and much, much bigger. A world before kings, before heroes, before Olympus even had real estate. Tonight, we're wandering into the cosmic workshop of creation itself, where one-eyed giants forged thunder, shaped fire, and accidentally kicked off half the myths your high school textbooks summarized in 2 boring paragraphs. But before we begin our slow fall into ancient chaos, go ahead and like the video and subscribe only if this kind of quiet, weird, myth-soaked bedtime storytelling actually helps you relax. If not, no worries. Even Zeus didn't impress everyone, and he turned into a swan that one time, so you're already doing better than him. Leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. It's always 2 a.m. somewhere. And if you're here, you're probably trying to drift off while listening to me talk about ancient cosmic beings who literally invented lightning as a hobby. Now, dim the lights, switch on a fan for that soft, comfy whooshing noise, get cozy, and maybe tuck your feet under a blanket, not because of rats this time, but just in case a rogue bolt of primordial energy decides to roll across your bedroom floor. Unlikely. But you never know with ancient mythological beings. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what the universe felt like before it had rules? Before there were gods, mortals, mountains, or Mondays? Before sunlight, snowfall, heartbreak, breakfast, or anything with a name? What was it like when the world was just potential? When thunder existed before the sky did? When fire flickered through the void, searching for somewhere solid to land? And how did 3 ancient Cyclopes giants made of stone, storm, and raw cosmic energy become the first artisans of creation? The first beings to shape the chaos into something meaningful? The first blacksmiths in a universe with no anvils, no metal, and no workplace safety regulations? Tonight, we drift gently into that beginning. Not to fear it, not to analyze it, but to float quietly beside it, the way you float off to sleep when the world finally stops tugging at your thoughts. So take a slow breath in, let the edges of the modern world fall away, and imagine yourself at the edge of a newborn universe. Colors flickering, thunder forming, fire learning how to glow for the very first time. This is the story of the Cyclopes, the one-eyed giants who forged Zeus's lightning, helped shape the cosmos, and sparked myths that carried across thousands of years. Settle in, close your eyes if you haven't already, and let the story begin. Chapter 1. Before gods had names, and now, as your breath softens and the modern world fades into a comfortable blur, let yourself drift backward. Not a few centuries, not even a few thousand years. We're traveling to a time long before temples, myths, and familiar gods, to a moment when the universe was just beginning to imagine itself. Picture this: a cosmic expanse so vast, so silent, so untamed, that even the word darkness feels too small. This isn't night. This isn't space. This is chaos, the ancient, yawning nothingness from which all things would eventually take shape. There is no ground beneath you, no sky above, only a swirling, endless sea of unformed energy, a slow, rolling tide of possibility. Colors you've never seen ripple across the void. Thunder curls through the air before sound even knows what it is. Heat surges, dissipates, reforms. Stone, fire, storm, and shadow drift, like cosmic dust waiting to become something meaningful. And then, the universe stirs. Not with a bang, not with a flash, but with a slow coalescing, like breath forming in cold air, like a thought finally taking shape. From the deep, formless swirl, patterns begin to emerge. Jagged, glowing fissures of molten energy trace the outlines of mountains not yet born. Clouds of raw thunder twist themselves into spirals, testing their own rumbling voice. Flashes of fire bloom and vanish, crackling in frustration as they learn how to exist. Creation is clumsy at first, messy, wild, unsure, but with every ripple, every pulse, Every flicker of forming light, the chaos grows just a little more organized. And then, in the swirling depths of this newborn cosmos, three silhouettes begin to rise. Not gods, not yet, not even beings as we understand them, but giants, ancient, immense, one-eyed children of raw creation. The Cyclopes, older than Olympus, older than Zeus, older than story itself. The rumbling thunder, Steropes, the rumbling thunder, blazing lightning, are just the white-hot flash of heat and fire. They don't walk from the void, they form out of it. Their bodies appear as drifting stone becomes solid, as fire condenses into muscle, as thunder coils into sinew and breath. Their single eyes open like suns. Not gentle suns, the kind that split sky from earth, that ignite mountains, that can illuminate the deepest corners of chaos with one fierce, steady glow. Around them, the universe trembles in recognition. Because these three giants, these ancient beings, forged from storm and stone, are the first artisans in creation's workshop. The first to mold raw energy into purpose. The first to look at a chaotic universe and think, we can shape this. They breathe and mountains rise. They blink and lightning cracks across the forming sky. They shift their massive shoulders and waves of fire roll across the emptiness, carving paths where future worlds will grow. This is not a peaceful dawn. It is an awakening a universe, stretching its limbs, learning how to thunder, how to blaze, how to exist. And though the Olympian gods have not yet been born, their story begins here in the hands of the Cyclopes, in this swirling cradle of primordial creation. For now, let the cosmic winds settle around you. Let the rumble of ancient thunder soften into a calming hum. Let the fire fade to a warm glow behind your eyelids, because the universe is still young, and the story has only just begun. Chapter 2, In the Forge of the One-Eyed Giants. Hey guys! Welcome back to our cozy corner of quaint history, the place where glorious myths twirl and sway through time, like an enthusiastic dancer at a wedding. Tonight, we're about to step into a realm more electrifying than a caffeine-fueled squirrel. The deep, dark forge of the Cyclopes, those one-eyed giants who crafted Zeus's legendary lightning bolts. Yes, folks, the same folks who probably tried knitting but ended up establishing themselves as master blacksmiths instead. But first, let's have a little chat. If you enjoy these historical meanderings infused with a dash of absurdity, and if this sparks joy like a well-timed dad joke, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave an amusing comment below. But only if you actually want to. Don't force the vibe, kind of like trying to hug a cat that's not in the mood. Now, let's dim those lights, find a soft spot on the couch, and brace for a voyage back to the 8th century, BCE, where myth and humor intertwine like a particularly ambitious piece of spaghetti. So, let's dive in. Have you ever thought about how utterly bizarre it must have been to hang out with colossal one-eyed beings? Did they have an excellent sense of humor, or just made awkward dad jokes about being uncyclopeded at parties? Ever wondered if they had the same issues we do with basic assembly? Can you imagine them trying to read the instruction manual for furniture from IKEA? Step 1. Find your components. Where did my other eye go? Congratulations. You've just landed yourself smack in the middle of ancient Greece. Around the time when everything was more intense than an early morning coffee run. You can hear the clang of hammers striking metal, the sizzling sound of molten bronze dripping like overcooked pasta, and the faint aroma of singed eyebrows wafting through the cool air. Welcome. You're standing at the entrance of a forge run by Cyclopes, particularly testy but highly skilled one-eyed giants who would probably fit right in at a metal concert if only they could find earplugs that would accommodate such large heads. As you step inside, let's paint a picture. The forge is dimly lit by sputtering torches, casting flickering shadows as if the walls are creeping up behind you just to get a glimpse of the antics happening in this metallic haven. Picture anvils strewn across the floor like teenagers' socks after a sleepover. It's hot, but not the cozy kind of hot. No, it's the I just ran a marathon in a sauna and might want to rethink my life choices hot. The hissing steam is almost rhythmic, like a bizarre symphony conducted by the spirit of chaos itself. Each clang of metal resonates through the air, vibrating within your bones, if only you could convince the Cyclopes to do a cover of your favorite rock ballad. Now, turn your attention to our Cyclopean friends. One stands there, towering over an anvil like a toddler holding a toy. Drum, squinting through his single eye, trying to understand why Zeus would want lightning bolts that desperately resembled upscale hair dryers. Hey, you think we can give them a wooden handle for a better grip? He asks, only to receive a bemused grunt from the other. Turns out, the giants have a unique way of discussing their ideas. Ancient wisdom or not, I would not recommend saying you missed the spot within earshot. And what can these muscular giants possibly offer us beneath all this chaos? Not a cookbook, unfortunately, but imagine the culinary possibilities if they tackled baking. 350 degrees for 20 minutes? I'll just throw all the ingredients in the Opa-sized pot and hope it rises like Olympus itself. Delicious? Probably not. But it would definitely be a viral sensation on ancient social media number, bake fails. As the day winds down, sparks flickering like fireflies in an overzealous dance, you feel a palpable sense of completion. The forge, once abuzz with activity, transforms into a haven of quietude, an odd yet soothing juxtaposition to the earlier orchestra of chaos. As if the sparks falling onto the floor have given way to a gentle rain of stars, and the giants, their eyes drooping like the last remnants of daylight, huddle over their latest creation. You realize the ancient Cyclopes are like us, after a long day, exhausted but oddly content, all the while plotting tomorrow's schemes for even grander creations. So now, as you nestle deeper into this scene, consider for a moment the beauty of communal labor. The Cyclopes, not just masters of their craft, but also keepers of myth, worked tirelessly through the night, fueled by dreams of forging divine power and a pinch of humor. Who knows? Maybe they were also debating whether to forge a set of enchanted barbecue tongs for future picnics on Mount Olympus. Seriously? How epic would that be? As the twilight deepens and wraps the forge in its gentle embrace, the noise fades to a soothing hum. The ambience of the Cyclopes' tools resting reminds you that even the mightiest among us need a moment to recharge after a day of creating madness and magic. So as you close your eyes and allow this vivid imagery to lull you to rest, reflect on the blend of chaos and calm. In the grand scheme of mythology, even the one-eyed giants took time to unwind after a bustling day. Perhaps sharing chuckles about that one time a mortal mistook a lightning bolt for a fancy spear. Sweet dreams, dear travelers, as the forge quiets, and the whimsical tales of history drift off into the starry night where the sparks of creativity and absurdity illuminate the cosmos. Chapter 3, The Watchful Eye of the Giants. Hey guys, grab your sleeping bags and dust off those dreams because tonight we're diving into a world more chaotic than your last family reunion. The realm of one-eyed giants, specifically the bearish Cyclopes, who forged Zeus's bolts of lightning. Yes, you heard me right. Imagine having to crush bad weather with the enormous bicep of a Cyclops, instead of calling your neighborhood weatherman. But first, before we step into the clattering sandals of ancient Greece, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drizzle a comment about how absurd this whole concept is, only if you enjoy this, of course. I wouldn't want to pressure you like Zeus pressuring Hades to take a vacation in the underworld. So, dim the lights, put on a fan, and snuggle into your most ridiculous sleepwear. Bonus points if it's adorned with your great-great-great-grandmother's face, which I hope is not the only thing keeping you warm. Now, let's ponder some questions. How do you think it felt to be the last remaining Cyclops at a family dinner? Ever watched one of those talent shows, convinced your brother's magical eye could outshine the competition? And speaking of dinner, just how much chaos do you think occurred when a Cyclops misread a recipe? I mean, you might just toss in a dash too much volcanic ash instead of salt, leading to a meal that could double as a sequel to a horror movie. Congratulations. You've just woken up in 800 BCE, A time where massive, unblinking eyes loom above lakes of bubbling magma, and everyone has a good chance of misunderstanding your requests, particularly if they involve lightning and serve me now. Let's talk about the birth of the Cyclopes, those mighty, mythical blacksmiths who were less about standing around, looking tough, and more about hammering divine lightning from raw earth, like a bunch of angry toddlers wielding plastic hammers. Picture this. You find yourself in a rocky cave, which smells like last week's fish fry, with lava flowing nearby, like an overenthusiastic fountain at a toddler's birthday party. At the center, there sits a gigantic, single, unblinking eye, glaring back at you as if you just committed the crime of sipping milk before your ice cream. This is not just any eye. It's the legendary Eye of the Cyclopes, surrounded by a swirling, molten mass of earth, magma, and perhaps some shameful memories of past misadventures. You can't help but wonder if they ever considered buying an eyelash curler or maybe a good eye cream. Let's pause for a moment and think about Cyclopes' craftsmanship. You know how frustrating it can be to find that one misplaced sock that blasted out of your dryer? Imagine trying to forge lightning instead. Every time a Cyclops would heat up the materials to create Zeus's famous bolts, one clumsy mishap, and boom, there went another mountain blown straight into the sky, taking with it several angry villagers and their prized livestock. Wasn't my fault, they would grumble, dusting ash off their tunics and wondering how to explain the latest natural disaster to their disapproving neighbors. As these gentle giants hammered away at their divine forge, a cacophony of clanking and rumbling surrounded you, almost like your neighbor's questionable DIY project. The sheer energy flowing through their gigantic forms must have been like an ancient Greek heavy metal concert, minus all the leather outfits. It's hard to picture one-eyed giants roaring with laughter while simultaneously maintaining a serious debate about whether green lava was actually a good color scheme for their latest forge invention. Moreover, in the midst of all this, one can only imagine the health and safety regulations, or lack thereof, plaguing the Cyclopes. Ever tried forging something heavy while holding onto a molten rock? No? Then you cannot appreciate the prescription levels of calamity they faced on a daily basis. Forget that wrist injury from texting too much. We're talking about one-eyed giants chipping their own fingers off while trying to perfect the art of lighting bolts. I mean, isn't that how you'd win Cyclopean, America's Next Top Blacksmith? And yet, through all this chaos, they played pivotal roles in the Titanomachy, crafting weapons and tools to assist the Olympians in overthrowing the Titans. Talk about a family reunion gone spectacularly awry. Picture Zeus calling together the Cyclopes to discuss existential matters over an excessive number of meads, gleefully ignoring the reincarnated Titans, plotting their perfect revenge strategy while your average mountain goat walks by, blissfully unaware. So there you are, cocooned in the cozy chaos of a Cyclopean forge, surrounded by eye rolls, literally, and the warm embrace of molten lava. As you inhale the thick cloud of volcanic ash wafting through the air, mixed with the faint scent of burnt offerings. Above, you can't help but feel a sense of belonging in the bizarrely creative world of ancient craftsmanship. After all, in a reality where one giant eye watches over you, what better way is there to fall asleep than knowing that everything around you is as delightfully absurd as a multi-eyed mascot for a one-eyed club? Now, with the echo of hammers ringing in your mind, drift along the dreamlike currents, floating gently among the stars and sparks, letting the Cyclopes' hilariously misguided legacy snuggle you softly into the warm, tender arms of sleep. Who knows what history you might forge yourself in the land of dreams next. Chapter 4, The Clattering Forge of the One-Eyed Behemoths. As we step deeper into this enchanting setting, prepare to be enveloped by the ear-piercing clang of hammers ringing through the air like giant percussionists in a Greek symphony gone delightfully out of tune. Here you are, standing on the outskirts of a Cyclopean forge. And trust me when I say, it's hotter than your uncle's barbecue gone rogue. The gods of Olympus could only dream of the kind of sizzling chaos present at this moment. The forge crackles and pops like a midnight popcorn party, loud enough to wake the Minotaur napping a few caves over. Before you, one of the legendary Cyclopes is hard at work. He's a mountain of muscle, practically a walking coliseum draped in furry, shaggy goodness. His gloved hands grip an enormous hammer, bigger than the hopes and dreams of anyone trying to install IKEA furniture alone. Now, let's describe this magnificent creature. Picture him, his form, illuminated by the golden white light of a freshly forged lightning bolt, every ripple of muscle highlighted like the latest artwork in a gallery of insanity. His one eye, an enormous orb of eye whiteness, stares with ferocious determination, as if it's both assessing his work and sizing you up for a dinner invitation like a bouncer eyeing the awkward guy waiting in line at a nightclub. You look familiar, it might say. Didn't I see you at that poetry reading last week? As he raises the hammer with the grace of a drunk elephant attempting ballet, try not to flinch. The sound reverberates around you, a glorious mix of metal and magic, punctuated by the faint aroma of singed eyebrows and burnt hair. Is that yours? Well, you might have to check. The health and safety of an ancient Cyclopes forge resembles less of a checklist and more of a try not to die challenge. Did someone say OSHA? Oh, honey, that was never on the guest list. The hot air blows past you like a steam train revving up before a major heist. It's thick and sweltering, embracing you like a friendly bear in winter. If that bear was a fiery piece of coal. You might want to think about cooling off after this. It's not exactly a spa retreat. Think about this scene for a moment. What if you had to choose between forging a mighty weapon and making dinner? Uh-oh. Did I just use imperceptible heat from the burning forge to roast this sheep? Now, most regular folks might grip a spatula and call it a day. But for Cyclopes, the marital dispute over the difference between lightning and roasted goat might lead to draconian verdicts. You don't want to end up on the wrong side of that debate, let me tell you. Now, take a look around. Can you see the other Cyclopes hoisting massive beams of metal like they weigh nothing? Their laughter rolls through the cave like a rolling thunderstorm. 1 minute, they're crafting divine weapons. The next, they're arguing about who has the best one-eyed jokes. Ever met a one-eyed man who refused to play cards? He can't look you in the face. The kind of humor that sparks tears, mostly from laughter, but sometimes from the heat. But envision the literal sparks flying. Each time the hammers collide with the anvil, it's like a pyrotechnic show gone wrong. At a birthday party, flashes of light and bursts of sound dancing wildly across the cavern. Somewhere in the mix is an excited goat, eagerly seeking out the secret tastiness of burnt lightning. You can't make this up, and what about their conversations? Imagine two burly Cyclopes discussing the latest trends in divine fashion. Those new sandals by Hermes? Overrated. I'll stick to my rugged toe boots, thank you very much. And there you have it. Ancient Greek fashion critics who wouldn't know a hot trend if it knocked on their cave door. As you cozy into your spot, you might even catch the whiff of charred rock and sweat, truly an aromatic cocktail no one has yet dared to bottle. Because nothing says great craftsmanship like the scent of hard labor mixed with a little neglect. Now let's not skip over the essential role these Cyclopes played during the Titanomachy. Imagine them, the ultimate underdogs, standing shoulder to shoulder with Zeus, hurling lightning bolts like it's some kind of cosmic ultimate frisbee tournament. Who needs a slingshot when you have a flaming rock that could obliterate 3 mountains? It's one of those problems most people never face, and thankfully, those delightful giants had the knack for it. And so, with every mighty swing and bellows of laughter, the Cyclopes craft more than just stellar weaponry. They create bonds, legends, and, perhaps most importantly, the divine story of how one-eyed giants once ruled the forge with a rhythm all their own, making history exciting enough to rival a blockbuster film. So close your eyes now and picture it. All hammers clanging, laughter echoing, sparks flying. Let the sounds lull you into sleep. Who knows what dreams await you? Maybe they'll include a whirling, dizzy Cyclops trying to find his other sock because even giants can have a chaotic laundry day. And if that doesn't bring smiles to your sleepy little face, what will? As you drift off into the whimsical realms, know that life at the Cyclopes Forge might just be the perfect journey to guide you gently through the night. Sweet dreams, dear dreamer. Chapter 5, The Thunderous Gift from the One-Eyed Smiths. Hey guys, welcome back to our deep dive into history that's more entertaining than a reality TV show about ancient soap operas. Tonight, we're wading through caverns darker than your cousin's sense of humor. We'll explore an epic atmosphere filled with giant cyclopes, forging lightning bolts like they're whipping up a batch of pancakes gone wild. Yes, that's right, a universe where breakfast is a whole lot more shocking. Now, before we turn this historical tale into divine comedy, could you imagine what a Cyclops grocery list might look like? 1,000 pounds of steel, 4 dozen goats for good measure, and a lightning bolt if we can find one on sale. Oh, the struggle is real, folks. And let's not forget the classic question. How do you ask for assistance when you only have one eye? Pardon me, but can someone ensure this isn't the side with my missing sock? So, dim the lights, put on a fan, and make sure your pillows are fluffed like clouds in a cartoon. As we embark on this epic quest, let's ponder some life-altering reflections. What does it feel like to spend your whole day hammering fiery metal while ensuring your one good eye isn't also getting cooked? What's it like to be the strongest yet clumsy employee of Olympus, untangling the divine supply chain of thunderous chaos? And finally, what would Zeus really say when he receives his shiny new gear? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 800 BCE, in a cavern so deep it might lead straight to the fiery pit of your neighbor's bad cooking. You stand before a hulking Cyclops, his shadow far surpassing your morning caffeine buzz. His massive hand cradles a glowing, perfectly shaped thunderbolt, its essence sparking like the electronic dance music of a divine festival. You're instantly enveloped by the heat radiating from the forge, hotter than the boldest chili contest. Our towering Cyclops, let's call him, Greg, has his one eye fixated on the stone he's carefully ladling into position like a suspicious chef preparing a secret family recipe. Only this time, the ingredient is literally igniting like your cousin's backyard fireworks showing. The cavern reverberates with a cacophonous symphony of bellows and clangs, echoing the rhythm with which Greg swings his hammer. Each strike sends waves of silver sparks that dance through the air like enthusiastic disco dancers while you're struggling for stability on your living room carpet. The air is thick with the aroma of smelted metal, almost like an artisanal cheese gone terribly wrong sharp and a little smoky, leaving you to wonder if you should be concerned about food safety. Picture it. Deep in this forge, Greg wipes his brow, the molten rock glistening off his greenish-gray skin. If sweat could be quantified as a resource, he has enough to fill several Olympic swimming pools. It's an impressive sight, really. You'd never guess that. The biggest threat in this forge is thousands of tons of unregulated, Eurocentric labor laws, right? The chaos might shock anyone expecting a safer work environment here in ancient Greece. Is that a thunderbolt in your hand, you wonder? Or are you just happy to be hammering away? While the thought might seem humorous, Greg takes his job way too seriously, believing every voltage-laden creation is an extension of his giant Cyclops dignity. Being the designated smithy of Olympus isn't just a job. It's an Olympic endeavor imbued with magic, sweat, and all the drama of a Greek tragedy, minus the dramatic masks. So, delightful Cyclops, you inquire. Ever try to cook dinner and craft a legendary weapon at the same time? Do you get angry when dinner burns and Zeus needs a new pair of electrifying sandals? The response is more laughter than words, punctuated by the sounds of hammers ringing, which makes it just a tad hard to hear anything but the percussion taking place. Other Cyclopes echo Greg's enthusiasm, even as they argue over who forgot to order goat cheese for lunch, because of course, a Cyclops diet is about as balanced as an ancient Colosseum battle. Suddenly, a rumble shakes the forge, and you instinctively realize it may not just be the hammers at work. Could that be the universe's way of laughing at your life choices? You think, as a spark erupts into so many mini lightning bolts that they dance around the cavern like hyperactive fireflies on a sugar rush. But humor aside, let's take a step back. Imagine being a Cyclops amid the Titanomachy. You'd be launching these crafted thunderbolts like you're playing the world's wildest game of cosmic frisbee, while Zeus simultaneously champions your handiwork. Who needs a slingshot when you have a flaming rock that could obliterate 3 mountains? It's the kind of rugged teamwork that makes you wonder why reality TV hasn't featured it. Yet, can you imagine the drama? So, as weapons are forged in echoing laughter, you know that this historical hilarity, laced with a bit of insanity, eclipses any dreary office job you could ever imagine. The glamour of being a god isn't half as fun without these Cyclopes turning sparks into legends and laughter into lore, literally shaping the fate of the Greek pantheon as you settle deeper into this whimsical journey between the clattering, the crafting, and the Cyclopean jokes. Remember, you're not just a spectator in history, you're a part of this fantastical world. And perhaps in your dreams tonight, you'll find yourself wielding a thunderbolt, cracking Cyclops jokes along with Greg, navigating the chaotic kitchen of divine creations. So, take a moment and breathe it all in, as you drift into the stirring adventures of a fiery forge under the watchful eye of the one-eyed giants where your imagination can roam as freely as their relentless laughter. Sweet dreams, dear dreamer, where the finalized punchline is never far away. Chapter 6, Poseidon's New Trident. Hey guys, welcome back to another marvelously mediocre jaunt through history that promises to be as riveting as watching paint dry, but with a lot more chaos. Tonight, we find ourselves standing on a rocky coast in the time of gods, giants, and the occasional runaway wave, where the god of the sea, Poseidon, awaits a special delivery. Together, we'll witness the moment Poseidon gets hooked up with the most imaginative trident this side of the Aegean Sea, crafted by none other than one-eyed giants, who apparently forgot that anyone could possibly have a preference regarding the color scheme. Imagine the aesthetics of this trident as we dive into the lore. What would you even wear while designing oceanic weaponry? A Speedo made of seaweed? A toga that literally flows like water? And how about using a seashell as a smartwatch? Picture Greg, our friendly Cyclops from the last chapter, trying to figure out if he should make the handle out of bronze or simply flex his one massive bicep and call it done. So, dim the lights, turn on an inconspicuous fan, and nestle into those fluffy clouds you call pillows, because things are about to get tidal. Have you ever had to maintain both a glorious physique and navigate the politics of godly requests, all while wearing flip-flops? Is it difficult to run a quality trident manufacturing operation when you're also responsible for buying lunch because Zeus refuses to pay for takeout? And most importantly, what do you do when all your best ideas float in the ocean, but so far, you're clueless about color matching? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 800 BCE as a casual observer in this pantheon of chaos, perched right next to a beach fit for a cinematic masterpiece. In the distance, feel the salty tang of the spray on your face, and listen to the waves crashing against the shore like disgruntled customers demanding refunds. Before you, standing above a raft crafted from driftwood and giant clamshells, is Poseidon, god of the sea. His wild hair tumbles like an overzealous seaweed salad, framing a face that is both regal and a little bit peeved. It appears he's been waiting patiently, or as patiently as an immortal can, while the Cyclopes finish crafting his new tool of command, a trident that would make any sea creature weep with joy. Poseidon thumps one foot on the rocky shore, leaving a dent that would look surprisingly similar to your car's bumper after a fender bender. From behind him, a towering Cyclops emerges. Let's call him Barry. Armed with an enthusiasm stronger than the tide itself, he lumbers forth, gripping the trident like it's carved from the dreams of dolphins. As he approaches, his one eye glimmers with pride. Or maybe it's just the reflection from the incoming tide. Hard to tell. Could be a massive squint, too. Here you go, mighty Poseidon. Barry booms, his voice resonating through the air like a foghorn on a quiet day. The CERT, finest trident, made by Cyclopean, craftsmanship. It's got an aerodynamic design perfect for slicing through the waves, though you may want to avoid any whirlpools. You know how that turns out. Looks like Barry's been binge-watching some craftsmanship tutorials on underwater DIY channels. Poseidon grabs the trident, inspecting it as though he's about to pick his future spouse. Is it the right weight for sending tsunamis and scaring sailors? He quips with a teasing smile. You can't help but feel the tension. Imagine Poseidon awkwardly deliberating over whether his new trident will be the talk of the ocean or merely a dizzying embarrassment during the next godly gathering. One flick of his wrist, and the tides could change. He could be the life of the party, or the butt of cosmic jokes. Hey Poseidon, love your new trident. Too bad it looks like something your kid cousin crafted during summer camp. The sound of waves crashing and seagulls squawking fills the air, and you can feel the anticipation crackling like the lightning bolts forged by the Cyclopes. Poseidon twirls the trident expertly above his head, and it sparkles in the sunlight, the bronze glimmering as if it were promising a victory far greater than anyone could fathom. All right, Barry, let's see if this sparks joy, he says, a hint of mischief dancing in his eyes. And then, as if on cue, he thrusts it into the water. A flood of foam erupts, sparkling like diamonds, against the backdrop of a cerulean sky. But instead of raining control, it inadvertently calls forth a school of fish that start flopping around free-for-all. Evidently, it looks like Poseidon just turned his deal into a fish market you weren't quite expecting. Suddenly, an enormous wave surges, and you're left wondering what Poseidon might yell at Barry. Will he inquire if it was the one-eyed Titan's fault, or just a miscalculation of Titanic proportions? The tension is comical, a perfect reflection of workplace shenanigans in Olympus, but with much more dramatic consequences. As the initial shock of the wave subsides, Poseidon chuckles, shaking his head. This design is too good, he exclaims. It captures the chaos of the ocean, just like a Tuesday after a holiday. And there you are, a mere observer amidst divine folly, witnessing a critical moment in the history of the cosmos, or at least a quirky chapter in the lives of one-eyed giants and their fiery godly patrons. It's hard not to chuckle as you realize. Sometimes, the road to greatness is paved with slightly askew tridents and unexpected nautical slapstick. With the waves calmed and the vermin cleaned up, you lean back, absorbing the joy of this ancient and absurd moment where giant gods and their giant tools create moments worthy of laughter, legends, and perhaps a viral video or two. Sweet dreams tonight, where mischief reigns, and you wake up not in a giant clamshell, but perhaps just pondering your next big adventure. Trident's optional. Chapter 7, Hades and the Helmet of Shadows. Hey guys, welcome back to another slightly peculiar trek through history, where we dive deeper than the depths of your last online conversation. Tonight, we're stepping into the hair-raising world of the underworld. Yes, that's right. The kind of underworld that makes your bustling city feel like a midday picnic in the park. Imagine, if you will, a gloomy place where the ambience is set to foreboding and the lighting choice, more shades of abyss than you can count. We're talking about the moody halls of Tartarus, replete with stalactites that could double as low-budget horror movie props. Now, if you think your job has its challenges, imagine being a god tasked with rounding up the various brutes and mischief makers of myth to maintain a sense of order among the restless dead. Spoiler, not exactly a cupcakes and sunshine kind of gig. But before you fall asleep, amid thoughts of hapless souls and shadowy figures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, just in case you enjoy listening to mildly terrifying stories of one-eyed giants and the occasional disappointed deity. But hey, only if it tickles your fancy. Now, have you ever found yourself questioning the practicality of a supernatural helmet? How does one even choose a good invisibility cloak? Shouldn't there be a friendly neighborhood Cyclops nearby to measure it for you? And what do you do when the only fashion advice you get comes from a giant with questionable taste? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 800 BCE, deep within Tartarus, the place you'd rather avoid on a travel itinerary, right between levels of hell and that truly awful restaurant with no reviews. The air around you is thick not just with despair, but also with the intoxicating scent of ancient minerals and something reminiscent of an old gym sock. Perfect! As you shamble forward, shadows flicker around you like confused fireflies, celebrating their exit from the epoch of existential doom. The environment's soundscape, echoes of chains rattling, distant moans, and the odd lamentation that sounds suspiciously similar to someone's midlife crisis. In the heart of Tartarus, as you meander through crystal-laden caves that would make any Pinterest user swoon, you brush past some unwilling participants in Hades' grim social experiment, a clutch of unfortunate souls navigating their own internal anvil of despair. Somewhere in the distance, you can hear the muted cries for help from a few very confused shades who seem to have taken a wrong turn at the river Styx. Where the heck am I? You ponder as you wave your hands in the inky darkness. You can't shake the feeling that you're walking into a poorly scripted horror flick where the plot twist is that you've been a ghost all along. But fear not, you're not entirely alone. The one-eyed giants known as Cyclopes are here to assist you, and they're just as perplexed as you are. Emerging from the shadows is a solemn Cyclops named Crumblebrow, who looks like he's taking interior design advice from the underworld. He's got chiseled features sculpted not by nature, but by years of crushing rocks and dreams. The shimmery helm of shadows rests on his outstretched hand, glistening like a recently polished potato. Behold, he booms, his voice reverberating through the crystalline halls, mixing with the cacophony of woe surrounding you. The helm of darkness, invisibility at its finest. His eye shines with pride, or perhaps it's just reflecting the faint glimmers of everlasting ignominy that fills this dreary place. Now, let's take a moment to unpack this mysterious helmet. Imagine trying on invisibility gear. Would it blend in with your clothes, or leave you looking like a disheveled magician fresh out of a malfunctioning trick? You can't help but wonder if there are invisibility fashion shows somewhere, with models strutting their stuff in cloaks and helmets, and on the runway, we have absolutely nothing. Creating a fashion statement has truly evolved. Crumblebrow continues. This masterpiece can cloak you in shadow, hide you from prying eyes, but beware. It comes with a side of bad decisions, occasional angst, and an unsettling sense of impending doom. As he speaks, a couple of nearby souls seem to stutter into exaggerated gasps, visibly contemplating what it means to be unable to see your own fate. Can it help me avoid chatty neighbors? You blurt out, halfway through an existential thought. Hades would applaud your attempts at small talk. You have nowhere to run after all. Indeed, Crumblebrow replies, instantly looking pleased with himself. Perhaps you might also avoid a torrent of unsolicited advice, or, running into people you hoped had vanished with the last lunar eclipse. As the helmet slides onto Hades' head, it seems to resonate in the clips, a way that's equal parts awe-inspiring and laughable. You wonder what it feels like to harness that level of power, perhaps akin to posting cryptic quotes from ancient philosophers on social media, only to realize you forgot to mask the cat filters. What a time to be alive. Or, not alive. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoes through the cave, jolting you from your reverie. Is that a tremor? You wonder, half expecting an earthquake to join the party, perhaps on behalf of the lost souls trying to escape. But no, it's just Hades giving one of his regular speeches to his imaginary audience, probably rehearsing for the next big underworld seminar on creative uses of torture techniques in modern times. And just like that, ingrained in shadow and clamor, you're left pondering the curious collision of fate and fashion, of godly grandeur, and the peculiarities of existence. So here you are, standing alongside a Cyclops and contemplating invisible helmets while trying to avoid, stepping on the toes of the deceased, knowing that life or lack thereof is full of fun, frivolity, and an inexhaustible array of visible and invisible dilemmas. Welcome to your dreamland of absurdity, where even the gods can't help but take life less seriously amid the shadows and uncertainty, and you, perfectly insignificant, are just another player in this vast cosmic comedy, spinning in your own realm of dreams, waiting to unfold. Sweet dreams, Chapter 8, The Legends of the One-Eyed Giants. Hey guys, welcome back to another mildly fascinating stroll through the corridors of history, where the tales are quirkier than your Aunt Mildred's conspiracy theories about the neighbors. Tonight, we embark on a journey that's more riveting than your usual post-work scroll through your social media feed. Yes, tonight we're diving into the rather tall tales about the Cyclopes, those formidable one-eyed giants who, spoiler alert, weren't actually that great at crowd control. Imagine this. You're nestled around a cozy hearth in a village that smells like a mix of bread, baking, and sheep. So, basically, breakfast with a side of farmyard. In front of you, an ancient Greek storyteller. His face narrating a tale as interesting as a vending machine saga begins to weave the story of the Cyclopes. His hands flail about like they're auditioning for a dramatic play on the importance of boulders in architectural history, and you can't help but lean in, intrigued. Now, have you ever wondered what the job application for a Cyclops looked like? Must be able to lift boulders, engage in grumbling dialogue, and withstand existential crises while living in caves, preferably with better interior lighting. Or perhaps you've pondered if these giants ever argued over who had the best eye patch. One eye mode never looked so chic. And did they have a penchant for fashion, like mortals did? Would they wear clothes that could double as tents in case of impromptu picnics? Congratulations. You've just woken up in a mountainous realm around 800 BCE, surrounded by clanging hammers and the occasional shouts of rather disgruntled giants. Here, you'll find yourself transported into a world of literal giants, whose biggest struggles involve living in relative darkness, surrounded by hairier neighbors, and a construction site mentality that could give any modern-day contractor nightmares. Let's talk about their homes. Picture a cave that's less cozy cavern and more rocky obstacle course. These dwellings probably had enough space for an entire rugby team and their multi-generational family, all vying for space among piles of old goat skins and the occasional discarded thunderbolt. Oh, yes, that's right. In this world, Zeus himself relied on our one-eyed friends for an electrically charged service, presumably because asking mere mortals was a little too pedestrian. You can almost hear the tale unfolding as the storyteller shares how the Cyclopes helped forge Zeus's thunderbolts, those bad boys that could send shivers down any Titan's spine. You need something that strikes fear into your enemies' hearts, the Cyclopes would say, rubbing their one functional eye. Look no further than this beauty. Earth-shatteringly loud hammering? Check. Sparks flying? Double check. And how many times did these giants accidentally zap each other while tinkering with their creations? Just imagine the kind of insurance claims that could possibly arise from such incidents. So, let me get this straight, Zeus would say, rubbing his temples in frustration. You lost a finger in a bolt accident, and now the entire lightning system is down? Well, that's just shocking. But as much as these Cyclopes were brawn and brilliance, they also had a flair for the dramatic, most likely the kind that could only be rivaled by a 2-hour epic starring an overly ambitious, tragic hero. Picture this. A Cyclops stands atop a mountain, delivering a soliloquy about his one-eye vision quality, only to realize he forgot to declare the early morning sun his biggest enemy. Ah, the struggle is real. It's like trying to thread a needle while blindfolded in a wind tunnel. Now enter Polyphemus, one of their most famous members, and a being whose tales kept parents up at night, lest their children take an unwise detour through the enchanted hills. The poor guy couldn't catch a break. He had to deal with people running into his cave constantly, their pesky human curiosity prompting them to graze on his sheep, sit in his favorite chair, and make him question his life choices. I just wanted to enjoy a nice meal of woolly delights. Is that too much to ask? The storyteller's hands swirl as he describes how Polyphemus encountered none other than Odysseus. At this point, it's hard to know who was the villain, the giant or the hero. You'd think after all those years of solitude, he'd have a thriving book club, right? The storyteller chuckles, drawing roars of laughter from his captivated audience. The Cyclops, befuddled and blinded by Odysseus's clever tricks, soon becomes the butt of a colossal joke. And just like that, he got outsmarted by a guest, the narrator quips, sending waves of giggles echoing throughout the room. If there's one lesson to take away from this saga, it's that sharing your cave with uninvited guests is never a great idea, especially when they come festooned with schemes that could rival the most intricate of trapdoors. Every twist and turn in this tale leaves you snorting softly. It's as if history itself decided that even giants deserved a hearty laugh at their own expense. By the end of the night, as the fire crackles and the shadows dance upon the walls, you're left wondering what might have happened if the Cyclopes decided to branch out into tourism. Come visit the cave of misery-free sheep grazing, included with a side of existential dread. So, in a world where giants wrestle with minor inconveniences and thunderbolts, you find yourself reflecting on the quirky intersections of strength and silliness, and as the storyteller's voice fades into the warm, glowing light of the hearth, you're left dreaming of towering figures, grappling with feelings, painting an absurd tapestry of intrigue and hilarity, drifting gently into slumber, where even the mightiest giants share a laugh or two. Sweet dreams. Chapter 9. The Volcano's Forge of Gigantic Dreams. Hey guys, welcome back to another mildly fascinating stroll through the corridors of history, where the stories are as curved as a Cyclops' eyebrow, and just as unexpectedly entertaining. Tonight, we'll journey to a place where the earth breathes fire literally, and meet the one-eyed giants who were crafting something a tad more intense than artisanal cheese. Imagine, if you will, a landscape that's hotter than the gossip at a family reunion. An active, rumbling volcano, likely snorting plumes of smoke like an over-caffeinated dragon. As you approach, the ground vibrates beneath your feet, echoing the booming sounds of wild hammers pounding metal somewhere deep in the crater, because what else would one do on a Thursday in ancient Greece? Here, you glimpse massive, unseen hands, wielding hammers like they were oversized spatulas in a fiery kitchen. But seriously, have you ever felt jealous of someone who could craft thunderbolts while you can't even assemble IKEA furniture without getting nightmares? Picture this. At that very moment, the Cyclopes, those intimidating one-eyed giants, are swinging their hammers, sending sparks careening into the smoky sky like fireworks at a 4th of July barbecue gone horribly right. Is it overkill? You ponder, watching starlit embers dance. Nah, who doesn't love a bit of flair with their lightning? But you have to wonder, what was their morning coffee like? Did they wake up with a sense of dread, like folks in a Monday meeting? Did they struggle to focus with that one big eye always peeking at the latest gossip, aka really bad weather? Or about who forgot to refill the lava supply? I swear Tom and Jerry over there are just stirring trouble. This sense of gigantic absurdity would be a good reminder that giants, like the rest of us, had daily dilemmas, just on a larger and stinkier scale. As the volcano rumbles, you can feel the heat, wrapping around you like a too-tight wool blanket that hasn't seen a good wash in centuries. The air is thick with the smell of brimstone and the burnt remnants of a particularly bad lunch involving goat. Have you ever dined on something that just went too far? Imagine trying to perfect the world's spiciest hot wing while standing on a lava flow. Oh, is that smoke I smell? Or just my lunch combusting? Visualize this giant forge, where the Cyclopes are minding their own gigantic business. In between crafting thunderbolts, they're probably swapping epic stories like how Bob lost his thumb in the Great Thunderstorm of 79 BCE. I mean, let's be real. If you were a Cyclops, wouldn't you relish the chance to boast about your impressive lightning collection more than the dude down the block who simply makes really good pottery? Now, it's time to focus on the craftsmanship of these hulking figureheads of the Titanomachy. As they methodically banged and clanged, you catch snippets of their gruff conversation. I just can't seem to get the conductivity right, one might grumble, furrowing his brow in concentration. I think I mixed up the copper with last year's Festival of Cheese's remnants again. Just my luck, because in a world where the stakes are cosmic battles, nothing says power like a poorly functioning thunderbolt, right? Every now and then, sparks shoot from the forge, two Cyclopes inadvertently zapping each other like boisterous siblings during a game of tag. Did you just zap me, Garrus? One might bellow, as their eye squinches in irritation. Honestly, is there a thunderbolt insurance policy? Because if not, you're paying for the next dude's toaster. How's that for a workplace dynamic? And amidst this, imagine the scene. The volcano hot enough to roast your marshmallows, complete with giants engaged in a not-so-tranquil labor of love. These colossal creatures wield hammers the size of small cars. Forget about free weights at the gym. It's all guns and lightning here, folks. Yet, these giants were not simply muscle-bound monstrosities. They were creators, artists, honing their craft. Their sparks weren't just for decor, they were inspiration. Do you think they composed epic lines while hammering to get those creative juices flowing? To forge a bolt or to forge a lovely dinner table? That is the question. They might muse, committing themselves to culinary pursuits amid eruptions. You know what? Let's not overlook their fashion choices. What do you wear to a Volcano Forge gala event, hammered and sizzled? A lightning collection would probably be its name. They're probably dragging the latest trends deeper into the ground faster than you can say ancient couture. And just so you're in on the trend, oversized eye patches were all the rage, I hear. So here you are, caught in this comically fiery scene, where every explosion and burst of light becomes a narrative of creation and hilarity. With the monotonous sounds of target practice on your eardrums, you ponder if even the Titans had days when they missed the mark. Every mishap, every zap, every near miss becomes a punchline in a world ruled by size, and an inspiration that even a giant can mess up now and then. And as the volcano continues to bellow and shake, you find yourself floating gently in a sea of uncertainty and sleepiness, pondering the idea that even the mightiest can trip over their own hammers. All right, sleep tight, and of course, don't let the giggling giants bite. Sweet dreams. Chapter 10, The One-Eyed Wizards of Thunder and Lightning. Hey guys, welcome back to another mildly interesting chapter where we peer into the past like nosy neighbors at a family reunion. Tonight, we're diving into a world that's hotter than a jalapeno on a summer's day, where one-eyed giants hovered over their fiery forges, crafting lightning bolts with all the flair of a competitive barista making your morning coffee. Trust me, it's a shocking experience. Not even a PowerPoint presentation on the joys of an electrical circuit can prepare you for this. Now, before we head into the workshop of these colossal craftsmen, let's take a moment to appreciate the impending chaos. Have you ever thought about what it's like to be a Cyclops? I mean, can you imagine navigating life with one eye patch and a thunderbolt obsession? Did they ever get dizzy looking at the world through one large lens like a funhouse mirror that's gone rogue? What about their love lives? Hey, baby, I may be only half of a man, but I've got a giant heart and the ability to summon storms. Okay, dim the lights, put your feet up if you have feet. Maybe you borrowed some from a friendly neighbor, and let's wake up in the mythic chaos of ancient Greece. Congratulations. You've just opened your eyes to a vibrant world between 800 and 480 BCE, where creatures the size of small houses and with fewer fashion choices than a potato reinvented the art of craftsmanship. Imagine stepping into the Cyclopes workshop. The air is thick with heat and the smell of molten metal mingling with the faint scent of charred goat. Yes, goat is optional, but certainly not excluded. The rhythmic clang of mighty hammers hitting raw material echoes like a heavy metal concert minus the annoying crowds and overpriced beer. Sparks fly with the gusto of tiny golden fireflies having a dance-off, illuminating the shambolic workshop where Brontes, Steropes, and Argus passionately strive for greatness with less than perfect results. You can picture them, can't you? These hulking giants, cloaked in sweat, glistening like giant dewdrops, frantically adjusting their spectacles made from the finest Greek carbuncles while laboring over their incandescent workstations. Each Cyclops occupies their corner, wielding tools that look like oversized kitchen utensils, designed for a barbecue contest gone terribly wrong. I can't believe I lost the Can I Set This on Fire competition, sighs Steropes, as he adjusts his helm, inadvertently singeing a tuft of hair. You'll get him next time, Brontes replies, his voice booming like thunder, mixed with the tenor of a confused cat. Just don't set the lava on fire, all right? We need that for the lightning bolts. Can you imagine the casual morning banter? Hey, Did you see? I hit the moon last night. Good luck climbing that ladder. In a world driven by competition, you can bet that bragging rights often revolved around who made the most fearsome thunderbolt, or who had successfully turned a local goat into fried lightning nuggets. What's that on the menu tonight? Fried Zeus? Extra thunder? Every swing of the hammer sends reverberations through the rocky walls, which might be the closest thing they have to a sound system. At one point, you might find Argus having a small existential crisis. Is it just me, or does this thunderbolt look like something from last week's cheese festival? He mumbles, eyeing the other two skeptically. Before you know it, their dramatic discussions turn into creative debates. Imagine if we added glitter to our bolts. That'd make them dazzling. Sure, Stratos, the uninvited lightning bolt, thinks it's a ridiculous idea, but the Cyclopes consider it a trendy leap toward modern lightning. We might start a rave, you know. Now, amidst all the chaos, let's pause for a moment due to the undeniable allure of their outputs. Every bolt gleams with greatness and the occasional hint of failure. These aren't your run-of-the-mill dime store thunderbolts. These are artisanal, handcrafted works of elemental art. Can you hear the declarations? First come, first served. Get your limited edition lightning here, folks. And have you ever wondered about their lunch breaks? Probably they'd sit around a giant stone table, sharing tales like weary workers commiserating after a long shift. Remember when the last lightning bolt hit that tree? Now that was a shocking experience. These mythical creatures, utterly oblivious to the dangers of forest fires, laugh heartily as their belly aches from weak attempts at goat cheese fondue made without proper cheese. Did I mention the environmental concerns? You can almost hear Mother Nature yelling, "You're roasting my trees!" But alas, the Cyclopes remain blissfully unaware. Or perhaps they just assume the smoke adds flavor to their dynamic lifestyle. You know, flaming goats are totally in this season, Brontes insists, nearly melting his own lunch in the process of crafting. By the end of the day, the workshop is alive with a gloriously chaotic energy that makes your average office job look ultra boring. Think about it. Have you ever had a coworker accidentally zap you with an industrial-sized lightning bolt, giving you an unforgettable story for your next casual Friday gathering? If you did, you should probably join the Cyclopes. So, as the sun sets on this gourmet thunderbolt workshop, you can pull the blanket of night snugly around your shoulders, lulled into sleep by the echoes of grumpy giants arguing over proper forging techniques and their latest failed inventions. Stay cozy, and maybe dream about turning your mundane life into a legendary saga worthy of thunderous applause. Good night, and may your dreams be electrifying in a safe, non-singed sort of way. Chapter 11, Uranus's Woes. The Titan's Fearful Decision. Hey guys, welcome back to another mildly interesting chapter where we dig through history's sofa cushions like a hungry raccoon searching for the last slice of pizza. Tonight, we find ourselves in a moment so dramatic it could give soap operas a run for their money as we explore the chilly depths of ancient Greek mythology. Spoiler alert, it involves one very anxious titan, a bunch of grumpy, one-eyed giants locked away, and a family reunion no one actually wants to attend, but hey, who wouldn't love a little chaos before drifting into sleep? Now, before we dive into this icy dilemma, let's make sure you're comfy. Grab your favorite blanket, dim those lights like we're setting the mood for an awkward first date, and settle in. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a parent of 3 enormous, very grouchy, possibly lunch-stealing Cyclopes? Or how about the existential dread of locking your kids away because they might actually take over your job? Imagine coming home to your couch filled with giant thunderbolts and one-eyed giants arguing about who gets the last piece of pizza. Doesn't sound too appealing, does it? So, let's take a deep breath and let's imagine you've just blinked awake in the tumultuous world of 800 BCE, right in the thick of the mythic chaos. Congratulations! You've just opened your eyes in a world filled with volcanic debates, titans with issues bigger than their egos, and Cyclopes who are about to be tucked away like leftover meatloaf deep down where no one can find them. Begin your day with the unforgettable aroma of despair wafting from the rocky depths of Gaia, the Earth herself. She's quietly seething as her formidable son, Uranus, prepares for a family drama, the likes of which would make any reality TV show look like a gentle game of Scrabble. Yes, Uranus, the embodiment of the sky, is officially having a meltdown. Picture him standing tall with clouds circling his head as he contemplates an existential crisis. Breathing in deeply, he decides it's time to take action. The sun is shining bright, and you can practically hear the ominous music building in the background as Uranus, feeling more paranoid than a cat at a vacuum convention, determines that some of his offspring might just be a tad too powerful. We're talking about his Cyclopean children. You would think he'd consider a family therapy session, but nope. Instead, he envisions a sounder plan, a deep, dark pit in the underworld, a perfect, cozy prison for his adored children, who also happen to be very handy with thunderbolts. Now, Uranus gets down to business, his heart thumping like a drum solo in a rock concert. He starts fantasizing about pushing those poor Cyclopes into the stony depths because nothing says, "I love you, kids." Quite like an underground adventure to a place that feels a little like that time you accidentally chose to sleep on a bag of fut. Rocks. Can you imagine their protests? "Dad, please, we were only trying to forge a new bolt. It's not our fault your taste in sky decorators is so picky." With a stern resolve, Uranus lumbers over to the gaping chasm, perhaps some human architecture, inspiration from that other underworld. And you can almost hear the dramatic piano music in your head. He offers up the motivating speech that nobody asked for. You will never know the chill of failure again. And with that delightful sentiment, he latches them away, almost proudly, at least until the first moan of regret echoes through the cavern. Picture this. It's dark. It's cold, really cold, like diving into an ice-cold pool, fully clothed, and those Cyclopes are packed into this stony confinement like misfit toys. Each one of them, frustrated, starts moping, complaining, and most likely, plotting their revenge. "Is this what we get for being the original couch inventors?" moans Brontes, the short-tempered one, hammering his fists into the rock like a toddler denied dessert. "Yeah, and what's with all the darkness?" Steropis buzzes in. "Last I checked, we didn't do anything to deserve this chill-out session. Can't even see who's stealing my secret stash of friendship thunderbolts." Can you picture their whiny disappointment? I mean, seriously, lockdowns are furthest from ideal, especially for one-eyed, muscular giants stuck together like some sort of family reunion turned nightmare. Meanwhile, Uranus is enjoying a cuppa in his glorious skyloft, occasionally peering down into the abyss as if he's peeking into his kid's messy room. "What's that commotion?" he muses. "Ah, well, just typical sibling rivalry. Let them settle that over some shoddy rock puzzles. Because who doesn't love a good family drama layered with the additional complication of potential murder? In this icy underworld, you can almost hear the grinding of teeth, giant teeth, mind you, big, enough to cause minor earthquakes. And as the Cyclopes argue incessantly over who really deserved the last piece of that oversized pizza made from freshly harvested lightning, stirrings of a rebellion begin brewing. "Enough whining," Argus bellows, his voice echoing off the cavern walls. "If I'm going to be here, I demand a thunderbolt launching competition. Winner gets to unlock the secret snacks." Ah, yes. It appears the drama in this dark abyss is escalating just like a dramatic season finale, making it impossible to sleep just yet. Perhaps consider keeping a pillow over your ears to muffle the impending chaos. As the sun sets and darkness creeps upon the earth, conjuring flickers of light and shadow, you can lay down, lulled to sleep by the distant echoes of Cyclopean banter. Freshly forged bolts of chaos, the perfect soundtrack for a restful night. So close your eyes. Imagine your own thrilling episodes of ancient drama while those Cyclopes continue to plot their clever escape. May your dreams be filled with mischievous giants and the warmth of sunlit skies, not so much husbands of Uranus, but mostly just a pleasant escape into slumber. Good night, dear listener, and may you drift away to adventures that don't involve existentially locked up family members. Chapter 12, Zeus's Bold Rescue, a shocking family reunion. Hey guys, welcome back to another mildly interesting episode where history gets a makeover and a touch of madness. Much like your uncle after too many holiday cocktails. Tonight, we're descending into a moment so electrifying it could spark a conversation at a family gathering. Zeus flipping the script and liberating some seriously moody giants. Spoiler alert, there will be bolts of lightning, grumpy Cyclopes, and just a dash of divine intervention. Now, before we embark on this chaotic escape attempt, be sure you're comfortable. Grab your favorite blanket, plump those pillows like you're auditioning for the Great British Bake Off, and dim the lights to a level that says, yes, I'm about to drift off, but not before we discuss giant one-eyed entities. Have you ever considered what it might be like to offer a hand to some angry Cyclopes, chafing in their prison like toddlers stuck in timeout? Or maybe you've pondered how Zeus, god of thunder and weekend warrior, got his due after a sidelined childhood of chaos. So, let's take a deep breath and nestle into the thrilling era of 800 BCE, where myths were a dime a dozen, magic was real, or at least the stories were, and everyone seemed one ill-conceived decision away from an epic showdown. Congratulations. You've just awoken in a world where Uranus, the overbearing titan, is throwing a family drama more dramatic than that time your annoying cousin decided to air your family's dirty laundry on social media. The air is electric, crackling with tension, like a poorly wired light bulb threatening to transform your living room into a disco party you never wanted. Picture this. It's darker than your coffee on a Monday morning, and up above your head, the titanic Cyclopes languish in their rocky cage, consoled only by the eerie echoes of their own grievances. The stony ceiling looms down like an ominous cloud, while their grumbles bounce around, creating a symphony of misery that would put a junior high choir to shame. Now, as you adjust your ears to the frosty whispers of rebellion swirling in the caves, enter Zeus, youthful and defiant. With a glimmer in his eye, similar to that of a toddler just unwrapped a gift, one that refuses to share with their siblings, he had the audacity to swagger down from Mount Olympus, illuminated by a divine light so bright it could easily be mistaken for a poorly placed street lamp. The veil between safety and chaos thins, as he steps forward with all the confidence of a man pushing a boulder uphill only to find it rolls back down right away. Greetings, dear giants. Who's ready for an escape plan that doesn't involve sitting in the dark, sulking like a sad cloud? Zeus booms with a grin, his voice echoing with an enthusiasm usually reserved for the unveiling of a new video game. The Cyclopes squint through their one eye, processing the dramatic entrance like confused bouncers at a nightclub, contemplating whether to let in this wild, flashy character. Oh sure, Brontes huffs. Just waltz in here and expect us to rally behind you, oh great king of gods! You know, the last time we followed someone's grand plan, we ended up stuck in here playing rock, paper, scissors with ourselves for 3 centuries. But Zeus isn't deterred. He flicks his wrist, summoning a bolt of lightning with the finesse of an overzealous magician revealing his latest trick. But wait, what if I told you I can provide all the thunderbolts you've ever dreamed of and free snacks too? Now that's more like it. Their interest piqued. The Cyclopes leaned closer, as if Zeus had put a tempting menu before them, giant-sized portions of theirs truly favored. Snacks? Please, we're starving down here. Like, eat a boulder just to stay full level of starving, roars Steropes, practically drooling at the thought. Zeus, ever the opportunistic leader, knows he has something here. Fine. It's a rescue mission, and snacks will be part of the deal, but we're keeping it stealthy. Think Operation. One-eyed giants sneak away, where the only consequence is an epic family dinner much later. And just like that, a pact was struck, all fueled by the promise of snack-fueled thunderbolts and freedom that tastes suspiciously like a hint of revenge on Uranus's tight-fisted ways. As the colossal figures shuffle awkwardly, readying themselves, you can only imagine the amount of quarreling to be had. Watch how I can lift this rock. No, this is for snacks, remember? I think I can win on sheer bulk. With bright embers of excitement in their eyes, they prep for the grand escape, each Cyclops readying themselves for what they know is going to be an epic showdown that might just knock the socks off their cosmic dad. Tension builds like a slow boil in a pot of lentils, and who actually enjoys lentils as they inch closer to the surface world? But hold your horses, or in this case, one-eyed giants. As they clamber into the light, visions of cheese puffs and ambrosia takedown sway their minds. Remember to keep it down, admonishes Zeus. We don't need Uranus catching wind of our late-night escapade. He can be grumpier than a cat with a hairball, and trust me, no one needs to see that level of fury tonight. And as the great one-eyed giants begin bursting from the darkness, with their hearts heavy with the thrill of rebellion and snacks, chaos erupts in laughter and thunder. The earth quakes with the prospect of freedom like your grandma's knees after bingo night. So as that great Cyclopean comedy turns into an insane escape full of bewildered onlookers and a few startled goats, get ready to settle into some much-needed rest as the antics continue to unwind, sending you off into dreams as sweet as ambrosial cake. Good night, dear listener. May your slumber be filled with laughter and perhaps an occasional one-eyed giant at your side. Chapter 13. The Cyclopes' Fiery Forge. Sparks, smokes, and one-eyed shenanigans. Hey guys, welcome back to another cozy exploration of mildly interesting history, like warming your hands on a cup of cocoa, only without the risk of spilling on your favorite sweater. Tonight, we dive into a world where one-eyed giants hammer out thunderbolts with the finesse of your least favorite uncle trying to assemble IKEA furniture after 3 too many drinks. Buckle up, because it's gonna be a ride brighter than Zeus's kitchen on pizza night. Now, before we plunge into the steamy depths of the Cyclopean Forge, make sure you're in your coziest position. Fuzzy socks at the ready. Dim the lights until they whisper, yes, I'm about to drift off. But first, let's watch some giant craftsmanship. How do you think these enormous creatures manage to forge the very weapons that occasionally rain down on unsuspecting mortals? Do they use divine hammers, or is it more akin to using a sledgehammer to smash a piñata? What's the workplace gossip like when your coworkers are literally bouldering giants who can't fit through most doorways? And how do you even make lunch when your lunch options consist of entire sheep and possibly boulders? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 800 BCE, a time when the air smells of molten metal, and let's be honest, a hint of burnt goat, as the Cyclopes labor in a forge that's hotter than a sauna in July. The clang of metal resonates through the rocky caverns, echoing off stone walls like an anxious toddler in a quiet library. In the flickering glow of the forge, these hulking figures, broad as barn doors, and a fraction as subtle, hammer away with an intensity that could rival even the most passionate amateur musicians during a family karaoke night. Above, the forge itself seems to be a cross between Thor's summer cottage and a lava-spewing toddler, filled with smoke and embers, dancing through the air like fireflies high on energy drinks. There's a pungent mix of sulfur and sweat, not your usual spa aroma, but one that feels perfectly appropriate when the workers are literally crafting tools to hurl at unsuspecting Olympians. As you watch them work, it becomes evident that these Cyclopes have a flair for aesthetic craftsmanship, though you often wonder if their version of artistic integrity includes a pop of color that might just mean they accidentally mixed their iron with a seasoning packet from last night's dinner. Each swing of a hammer sends sparks flying as they shape metal shows, and you can't help but feel a bit of admiration mixed with mild concern. Watching them is like seeing your neighbor rigorously power wash their driveway. Fascinating, oddly therapeutic, but slightly alarming. In the heat of this roaring forge, one giant named Brontes, a name that might just sound like the title of a Greek tragedy starring an overzealous dyslexic narrator, strains to lift a massive ingot of metal. "This is nothing," he bellows as he hoists it up with the bravado of someone who claims they can finish an entire pizza alone. "I once lifted a mountain, or was it a very angry goat? Hard to remember with the heat haze and all." Steropes, his equally large friend, pipes up from across the forge. "Remember, you dropped it on my foot that time, and it's hard to impress anyone when you've got a gnarled toe." The two share a hearty laugh, deep and booming, almost like sound waves bouncing off the very mountains that their father Uranus holds dear. And then there's Argus, who constantly tries to impress his buddies with wild tales of his forging prowess, reinforcing the theory that one-eyed giants do know how to exaggerate. Just yesterday, I crafted a lightning bolt so powerful that Zeus got jealous. I swear it could toast an entire flock of sheep, but you know how the weather is. The gods get all cranky when the sheep look too sparkly. They proceed to create works of art that are equal parts weaponry and whimsical objects, like a thunderbolt-shaped bread slicer, perfect for those proverbial heavenly brioche loaves. The forge hums with a rhythm similar to a particularly enthusiastic heart, beating right out of the chest of an adrenaline junkie, each clang, each hiss, tying together a symphony that only creatures who could lift houses could create. You take a moment, inhaling the warm air tinged with a smoky flavor, nearly tasting the metallic magic that surrounds you. Even the tools are an exercise in absurdity. One Cyclopes, let's call him Steropes, because every good tale requires at least a couple of characters you can't pronounce. Right attempts to hammer out two gigantic ore chunks simultaneously. Is that a symbol of duality, or just a sign that multitasking wasn't invented yet? Depending on how quickly he can let out an errant curse word before resorting to laughing at his own mistake, this could go either way. It's hard not to imagine that, at some point during their hammer-swinging labor, they share a fondness for bonkers banter, discussing the classic question, if you could forge anything in the world, even an oversized, bedazzled throne made entirely of wasted thunderbolts, what would it be? A hot tub, shouts Argus, who seems quite dead set on his dream of post-work relaxation. Imagine soaking in divine hot water after a long day. The bubbles could be made of celestial champagne. One of them, likely Brontes, chimes in with a laugh. But who would clean it? Not me. Last time I checked, I'm more equipped to throw a goat than scrub tub tiles. As the fire crackles and the burdens of the mighty Cyclopes transform into divine weapons, you feel a sense of ease, somehow connected to their hard labor and whimsical conversations. It's a labor that's as beautiful as it is ridiculous, much like trying to balance your life with adulthood while possessing the decorum of a 3-year-old unsupervised at a candy store. So, as we slide gently away from this warming scene of Cyclopean craftsmanship, remember that the hum of their forge rings not only with memory but with a deep echo of labor and levity. May you carry the kindling of this inspiration into your dreams, where even giants can laugh at the absurdity of their bordering on catastrophic successes. Good night, dear listener. Rest well, and may Zeus's lightning never strike your pillow. Chapter 14, The Cyclopes Forge. Heat, hammers, and hilarity. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy delve into mildly interesting history, where even the giants have a sense of humor. Tonight we travel to the fiery hearts of Mount Etna, where sweat, sparks, and a pinch of chaos collide in an epic forge run by none other than Cyclopes. Imagine being surrounded by one-eyed giants, expertly swinging hammers, yet somehow missing the anvil completely. Sounds like a typical family gathering, doesn't it? Before we stoke the flames of hilarity together, let me gently remind you to like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment if this whimsical trip tickles your fancy, but only if you actually enjoy this. Now, dim those lights, grab a blanket, and make sure you're comfy. Are you ready to travel back to a time where the most common lunch options were raw fish and large boulders? What would it be like to ask a Cyclops for a favor, only to have them misinterpret your request and lend you their massive thumb instead? Ah, congratulations! You've just woken up in 800 BCE, nestled deep within the infernal embrace of a Cyclopean forge. The air is thick with heat, clanging sounds bounce off stone walls, and the aroma of molten metal wafts through the air like a poorly cooked stew. Clothe yourself well, because it's about to get, well, sauna-like. You might think your gym has a sweaty vibe, but trust me, it's got nothing on this. Let's talk about the atmosphere here. Picture sprawling caverns with dim lighting where the only illumination comes from, roaring fires like a really intense barbecue gone wrong. As your eyes adjust, you see massive figures laboring with the grace of a hippo learning to dance. Giant arms swing hammers attached to the weight of a small car, each strike ringing through the cavern and echoing like a choirs of frogs at midnight. As you settle in closer, you can't help but notice a less than harmonious symphony of grunts and laughter. interspersed with the occasional outburst of grumbling amidst their work. The last time I poured lava into a mold, it turned out to be a chunk of rock instead of that goblet I was going for. Belos Brontes, the gentlest giant you'd ever wish to meet. He's as broad as a barn and has a laugh that could rattle the filings off a nearby anvil. Steropes, another Cyclops with a penchant for over-exaggeration, howls with laughter. Remember the time you set fire to your own beard trying to light the forge? He guffaws. Let me tell you, nothing says career choice like a charred eyebrow. Speaking of unintentional mischief, as you look around, you notice a veritable treasure trove of absurdities littering the forge. Between the metallic dining accoutrements and hastily crafted weaponry, you spot something unexplainable, a lightning bolt-shaped spatula. Imagine the culinary wonders one could create with that. Oh, are we going for a divine brunch today? I guess we could fry up some eggs with the essence of thunder. There's Argus, another one-eyed connoisseur of chaos, demonstrating his latest invention, a potato peeler that doubles as a makeshift harpoon. Never combine sustenance with creativity, folks. Last time, I lost a harpoon in the stew pot. He chuckles, clearly relishing the thought of his mishaps. Can you imagine the nutritional value of a shockingly zesty harpoon stew? As you marvel at this wild scene, something else catches your attention. The workshop is an explosion of color, not quite the type of design aesthetic you'd see on HGTV, but definitely reason to wonder. The Cyclopes seem to have a predilection for mixing metals and paints. "This'll go great with your helmet, right?" one yells, as another inadvertently turns a shield into what can only be characterized as a disco ball. But who's going to dance at the war? You can't help but think. While they all contribute to the work, circles of camaraderie grow amongst the giants. Stereotype conversations are flying in all directions. I'm telling you guys, we'll attract even more nymphs if we craft something out of mistletoe this Valentine's. One of them sighs, clearly dreaming of romance, a true flip of tradition right out of your own dating nightmares. Remember lunch? Good luck inciting a meaningful discussion about sandwich choices. Did you guys see the size of that goat head I was planning for lunch? Brontes chimes in. I swear, I could use it as a helmet if I can't manage to finish it. And just like that, everyone bursts into deep belly laughter as the fumes from the forge spiral into the air. Even the tools have stories of hilarity hiding behind them. Steropes attempts multiple arm wrestling matches using an anvil, of course. Dude, are you seriously using the anvil again? I mean, not even Hercules got that creative. You can almost hear the sigh of disbelief in the caverns as they break into a raucous round of laughter. So there you are, amidst these hulking one-eyed giants, tired from their labors yet filled with buoyant laughter. The clang of metal, the smell of hot ore, and the absurd side antics of Cyclopes create a world of unexpected productivity. Like watching your slightly disorganized neighbor attempt to assemble IKEA furniture while also trying to cook dinner in the most chaotic manner possible. As they hammer away at divine weapons fit for gods, yet somehow retain the essence of comical absurdity, you realize this roller coaster of hilarity, heat, and clamor serves to remind you, no matter how towering the task before you, a little absurdity never goes amiss. Now, as sleep beckons to you like a soft, warm blanket, may your dreams be filled with the silly antics, divine mischief, and laughter of giant craftsmen who just want to bring a little humor to the thunderous woes of the world. Good night, dear listener. Dream of forging your own absurd realities where laughter reigns and the Cyclopes are just a heartfelt hiccup away. Chapter 15, The One-Eyed Forge. Blisters, laughs, and lightning bolts. Hey guys, welcome back to our soothing journey through history, where the past isn't so much haunting as it is hilariously awkward. Tonight, we dive into a fiery workshop nestled within the heart of a volcano, where oversized giants mix metal and mischief with an unexpected flair for comedy. Ever wondered what it's like to forge mythical weapons while trying to ignore the smell of charred eyebrows? Spoiler alert, it's not a spa day. Before we ignite the whimsical furnace of history, Let's take a moment for you to like, subscribe, and perhaps leave a comment if this ridiculous adventure resonates with your inner scholar, or if you just really like one-eyed giants. But only if you actually enjoy this. Now, dim those lights, cozy up under the softest blanket you can find, and prepare for a mindset shift. What if, in another life, you found yourself applying for a job as an assistant to a Cyclops? Blacksmith? Would you argue over who gets to swing the hammer? Or would you end up holding a giant pair of tongs, wondering if you'd be asked to fetch the fire extinguisher after a disastrous lunch? Ah, congratulations. You've just woken up in 800 BCE, deep inside a cavern where one-eyed giants are hard at work crafting divine tools fit for gods and attempting to cook their lunch without accidentally combusting their facial hair. The humidity is thick, almost like being trapped in your aunt's basement, but with more lava and less awkward family conversations. As you blink away the startled confusion, the surroundings come into sharp focus. Massive hammers, molten metal bubbling like an angry cauldron, and, oh yes, the unmistakable sound of something resembling an elephant trying to dance the cha-cha. Let's talk about the atmosphere here. Regardless of how many times you remind yourself to breathe, the heat wraps around you like an over-enthusiastic bear hug. Picture vast caverns, dimly lit by terrifyingly bright streams of molten metal flowing like lava because, spoiler alert, it kind of is. As you step further inside, you begin to hear that delightful symphony of grunts, clangs, and a very questionable tune that seems to vary wildly with each hammer strike. It's like an avant-garde percussion group, but more danger and fewer hipsters. As you intently observe, you spot Brontes, the resident Cyclops blacksmith, swinging a hammer nearly as big as a neighborhood car. Sweat drips from his brow, sizzling on the glowing metal. Hot metal, cold sweat, and hair that never quite gets the styling it deserves. He bellows with a laugh that reverberates through the cavern. Last time my hammer slipped, I made a lovely doorstop that BRO'd, enough for a minotaur. Steropes, the self-proclaimed fashion consultant of the forge, adds his voice to the cacophony, high-fiving Brontes, inadvertently summoning sparks that dance like microscopic fireworks. You mean your doorstoppers could earn you a reputation as the foremost creator of excessively large paperweights? He chuckles. Really, Brontes? We should aim higher. How about we craft a shield with stylish patterns? We could pitch it to the local warriors as the latest trend in combat chic. As you laugh along with these hulking giants, your eye catches sight of the tumultuous workspace littered with absurd creations. There's a shimmering trident clash with a spatula, a lightning bolt-shaped spatula. Imagine trying to cook breakfast with that. Are we aiming for scrambled eggs or a shocking culinary adventure? A nearby Cyclops quirks an eyebrow before launching into an enthusiastic thunder omelet routine. I mean, the only downside is, when everyone gets together for brunch, someone might just zap the toast instead of popping it in the toaster. And look there, Argus, too, joins the conversation, demonstrating his latest wild invention, a potato peeler that doubles as a makeshift harpoon. The laughter in the cavern crescendos with each oddity they craft. I once tried to spear a fish with this, Argus exclaims. It was a culinary adventure that ended in a lunch of crispy scales and a very irritable little fish. Amidst the chaos, a Cyclops with a serious undertone sits aside, attempting to spin a safety cone from metal. We're going to need these for the forge. Safety first, right? He insists, sounding remarkably like your concerned neighbor yelling at kids who dare approach the big, shiny machines. Or else, this becomes a one-eyed disaster waiting to happen. The clang, the hiss, the vibrant conversation, it's Wile E. Coyote meets a blacksmith's guild, filled with adventures that would make even the most stoic of gods crack a smile. And as you absorb this madness, an epiphany strikes you. This chaotic scene is a living testament to the bond of creativity, failure, and laughter. Who knew that forging divine weapons could come with side orders of absurdity? It's like discovering that historical figures had the same quirks and sometimes even kitchen accidents as we do. So now, as you have braved the Cyclopes Forge, let the warmth wrap around you. Surround yourself with their laughter and antics, a gentle reminder that life can be equal parts fiery chaos and hearty entertainment. As your eyelids grow heavy, may your dreams weave through the mythical forges where gods forge laughter and history itself is one big, circular dance of one-eyed giants wielding massive hammers and elegantly zesty potato peelers. Good night, dear listener. May you rest easy, knowing even giants had to clean up the mess they made. Sleep tight. Chapter 16. The Singularity of the Cyclops' Eye. A glimpse into the gigantic. As you adjust to your outrageous surroundings, prepare yourself for a unique perspective, literally. Today, we're diving into the curious realm of Cyclopean vision. Spoiler alert, it's not as utopian as you might think. The Cyclops' single eye, equal parts sunbeam, craftsperson's vision, and volcano mouth, holds stories more colorful than an artisan cheese platter at a hipster gathering. Let's talk about the eye itself. Picture a perfectly round, enormous orifice, a bit like a dinner plate if dinner was a fiery blaze, and maybe the last meal served at a rather overzealous bonfire. The eye teeters somewhere between the focus of a master craftsman and the uncertainty of an apocalyptic volcano about to blow its top. There's so much pressure packed into that one ocular orbit, you'd think it had made too many bad decisions on a Friday night. And oh, what an eye it is. If you've ever squinted at the sun during a hot summer day and wondered if it could bake cookies at a distance, you've only scratched the surface of what a Cyclops experiences daily. Because, my friend, this single eye is not only a tool for crafting divine artifacts, but also an embodiment of vigilance and omnipotent grumpiness, reminding one and all that overcooked eyebrows aren't just a myth. Now you might be wondering, how does one even begin to master the art of interconnectedness with a solitary eye larger than your average bathroom mirror? The truth is, it takes practice. Imagine using your one eye to make fine adjustments to the world around you. It's like trying to park a spaceship with only one working half of the control panel. Elation and confusion coalesce into one grand experience. Flying cars? Forget it. These lumbering giants are lucky if they can manage a trip across the cave without bashing their skulls into the rock walls. Let's also give a thought to what happens when miscommunication arises. Look, there's a spark. One Cyclops bellows, pointing to the shiny bits flying off an anvil, only for their companion to turn and stomp toward the nearest wall, thinking a fuzzy squirrel was attacking. In the fantastical lands of ancient Greece, a Cyclops interaction could quickly devolve into chaotic hilarity, not unlike an episode of a sitcom where nobody knows how to turn off the smoke alarms. But inside that cavern, creativity flows, along with the molten metal. Brontes, with hammer swinging like a metronome set to chaotic genius, uses his eye to focus intently on the glowing alloy. "Can you see the glimmer?" he shouts, behaving as though this were a high-stakes treasure hunt. "I mean, how is it possible to misplace an entire thunderbolt?" Meanwhile, Steropes, now sweeping the floor with a whimsical flair, usually reserved for swans or overly enthusiastic Pokemon, dives deep into an existential conundrum. Does my field of vision count as an endless abyss? Or do I just work in a really intense arts and crafts corner? And there, you realize, chill life advice is brewing amid belly laughs. A reminder that everyone grapples with their reality, even if your roommate happens to be a one-eyed giant. "Is that why gods designated him as the lightning forger?" muses Argus, scratching his massive head like a bemused ancient scholar. Could it be that they chose him for his striking limited focus? It's like using a pickaxe to clean your ears, may be effective, but not without its challenges. Gradually, as your humor breaks the surface tension, you can reminisce about those moments when you bombed a simple cooking experiment, making a salad that even rabbits turn their noses up at a humble reminder that creativity can take weird forms. And there's another point to ponder. The nature of the volcano eye also suggests a larger metaphorical significance. You see, in a world where one-eyed giants forge the very tools of gods, it begs the question, are we not all just Cyclopes in our own quirky realms, trying to forge meaning out of the chaos while navigating our turbulent internal fires. As you begin to slip into that delightful haze between consciousness and dream, you realize the campfire chatter of these lumbering beings is a composition of laughter and lunacy, reminding you, one eye or two, we all stumble through this wild ride called life. So may your dreams tonight flit between firelight and the absurdity you just absorbed, merging the skills of the Cyclopes into a silliness all your own. You are out of sync with time, yet somehow at the center of a creative forge where mayhem and merriment reign supreme. Drift off into slumber, dear friend. Let the warmth of the Cyclops' laughter guide you into a night where even the most chaotic of realities settle into gentle whispers of hilarity. Sweet dreams, and may your own creativity embolden your next daring cook-off. Just perhaps consider trading the lightning bolt spatula for a classic frying pan. Good night. Chapter 17. Mortal Triumphs Beneath a Grimy Grin. A Blacksmith's Forge. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we find ourselves window shopping for sparkly metal in a world hotter than a dragon's breath mixed with burnt toast. Yes, we're delving into an era so bronze-tinted that even your grandma's sequin dress looks a bit dull in comparison. But before we step into the foot-stomping, hammering chaos of ancient flooring, or should I say, fording, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment if you find this mildly interesting, but only if you actually enjoy it. I won't force you into social obligations. Now, grab your imaginary pickaxe and dim those lights. Get comfy, roll onto your side, and prepare for the absurd scenario of waking up as a mortal blacksmith in the Bronze Age. A time when gods were impatient, giants were grouchy, and half your neighbors probably resembled an angry potato. Ever find yourself pondering how hot it must be to smith a blade twice, the size of your kitchen? Or wondered if there was a warning label on that giant anvil that read, "Danger may result in serious toe damage"? And just how many times do you think ancient blacksmiths shouted out, "Great, time to pull a flaming piece of metal from the furnace. Did I remember to wash my hands?" If only medieval hand sanitizer had been a thing. Congratulations, you've just woken up around 600 BCE. Your face sporting more soot than a coal miner's lunchbox, standing in a bustling forge louder than a rock concert at a rabid goats convention. The warmth that envelops you is that of smoldering fire, mixed with the aroma of iron and a side note of sweat, truly a delicacy in the ancient air. It's not quite comfortable, but hey, neither was paying taxes back then. Let's talk about your workday. The clang of hammers working in unison provides a rhythmic frenzy, like the world's loudest and most chaotic drum circle. You're surrounded by other mortals, their faces, just as grimy as yours, looking prouder than peacocks, showing off their finest feathers. Each of you is in this peculiar waltz of complexity, shaping raw heated metal while trying not to accidentally forge a keychain instead of an epic sword. What an achievement! That would be a gift for the gods. You flex your fingernails and discover they're adorned with a matte finish of soot and tiny particles of debris, a style you'd never find in modern fashion catalogs. Ever tried removing soot after a long day of crafting, like trying to wash off barbecue sauce from a white shirt? Good luck with that. Maybe if you shout sorry loud enough, the dirt will turn back into a pristine elegance. Meanwhile, your imagination takes a detour to think about the different gods who might pluck one of your creations, like a child choosing their favorite ice cream flavor if ice cream were made from volcanoes and mischief. "Oh, gods of Olympus," you might shout. "What's it gonna be? Today a flaming sword? Or something more ordinary, like a daily utensil? Maybe even a giant spoon?" You can practically hear Zeus snickering from the clouds, because who doesn't love a good kitchen gag? Yet, this isn't your average smithy. You've poured so much effort into your craft that it feels like your own cozy fortress of creativity, and Athena chiseled from sheer will and a hammer. Thoughts flood your mind. Will this sword be worthy of slaying dreaded titans, or is it just made for cutting cheese? Your hand grips the hammer as you switch between lengths of fiery metal. Shaping those ferocious glowing bars, it feels like trying to stretch a burrito too far. It's satisfying when it works, but the risk of just having a molten mess? A distinct possibility, akin to our attempts at heavy lifting in the gym, encouraging until you're laid flat, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many cookies you can eat before you face Judgment Day. But it gets better. In the background, you witness a sight that rivals anything in modern entertainment. A one-eyed giant, Brontes, clangs iron as fervently as a toddler, drums on every available surface. The sheer intensity with which he hammers would make even the grumpiest Homeric hero dash in awe. I'm forging thunderbolts for lucky Olympos, he bellows, momentarily punctuating the air with spectacular nonsense that has the rest of you chuckling. Steropes, nearby, considers existential questions amid the clanging madness. Is our purpose simply to make cool stuff, or is there a deeper meaning behind these flaming hot, merged together things? The confusion on his face hints that he might also be deaf from the noise. It must be poetic irony. The quest for wisdom often comforts those who can't hear their own random ramblings. And there's Argus, too, who contemplates whether he prefers forging tricky tools or just thundering proclamations about the importance of polished finish. We must not forget. He says, the gods adore a little shine, just like we adore a good Netflix binge after a long day. As you succumb to the rhythmic flow of molten metal and the chaotic hilarity of one-eyed giants, you feel the warmth enveloping you, a cozy hug from the universe reminding you of the creative chaos within. Dreams blend reality, images of forging and laughter mingling effortlessly as you drift into that sweet slumber. So let the twinkling ember of mortal magic guide you into the night, reminding you that whether you're sweating over metal or crafting your latest Instagram post, it's all about adding some heat and maybe a few laughs too. Sweet dreams, my friend, and may you wake up tomorrow equipped to forge your own little avalanche of creativity, minus the flames. Chapter 18, The Return of the One-Eyed Wonders. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're diving into a moment as absurd and grotesquely funny as your uncle's annual holiday sweater, the Age of Titans and One-Eyed Giants, where mounting paranoia and heavy-handed power struggles create a recipe more chaotic than your last family dinner. Imagine, if you will, a world where creatures the size of skyscrapers are feeling a tad underappreciated. Ever wondered what it must feel like to be the boss of ill-tempered giants, whose only skill set revolves around forging top-notch weaponry, and possibly grumbling about their unhealthy diet of only whatever fits in one hand? And why is it that every mythological figure seems to carry around angst like a sad puppy in need of a good foster home? It's a mystery for the ages, or at least one to ponder while you're trying to sleep. Now, if you're liking what's coming up, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment if you find the thought of one-eyed giants forging lightning mildly interesting. But only if you actually enjoy it. No pressure or lightning bolts will be thrown in your direction. So, dim those lights, fluff those pillows, and get ready to ease into a time when one-eyed fellows wielding hammers were the celebrities of the cosmos, and the back and forth of mythological drama was juicier than today's prime-time soap operas. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the early days of the Titanomachy, where the atmosphere is as thick and oppressive as the smell of overcooked cabbage at a banquet gone wrong. In the clutches of a paranoid titan named Cronus, you find yourself standing over the Cyclopes, those one-eyed giants who once made lightning and all things loud. Cronus has just rounded them up again, probably to deal with his own trust issues. I mean, who wouldn't have a few left in the tank if your own child was destined to overthrow you? First things first, let's set the mood. The air is tense, swirling with uncertainty, and the faint scent of molten metal, like a giant's workshop after taco night. Hammers clang through the shadows, echoing like a bad rock band in this cavernous domain, a bizarre mix of chaos and craftsmanship. You can hear Brontes grumbling something about never finding a good stock market analyst in the land of myth. Maybe he's right, considering his life choices have led him to forge thunderbolts instead of investments. Who needs compound interest when you have hammer strikes? He bellows, looking as if he drank too much ambrosia with a dash of woes. Scrutinizing this grim scene, one has to ask, did Cronus miss his calling as a motivational speaker? Fear is strength, but also debilitating. Seriously, buddy, even your therapist would suggest you take those baked beans out for a walk instead of locking them up. But there he looms, a giant of a man wrapped in paranoia, babysitting the Cyclopes like they're unruly children about to rampage in a candy store. Imagine him pacing up and down, his furrowed brow more furrowed than a cornfield after a drought. What if they scheme against me? He mutters, clearly having watched too many seasons of reality television. I can't trust them. They might develop a startup for lighting innovations. Cronus is far from the level-headed leader one might hope to see. His thoughts spiral downward like a furious politician that just lost an election. Each time he glances at the Cyclopes, he sees threats somehow camouflaged as potential allies. Calm down, you formidable beings of brawn. I just want to imprison you for greater justice. Sound logic, tighten. They respond with awkward silence and mild eye-rolling. But here's a question bubbling under all the chaos. Are the Cyclopes on board with being re-imprisoned? It's like trying to convince your cat to take a bath. They're not having it. Their massive fists clench in uneasy anticipation, a blend of resignation and suppressed rage. Not quite the cheerful prisoners Cronus was hoping to mold them into. Maybe if I tell them I'll start a band with them, he thinks hopefully. The labor of the Titans and their one-eyed brethren is a slapstick comedy of errors. As they work the forges, their conversations bounce around like poorly thrown arrows. Who's got a spare eye? Brontes bellows during a moment of silence, attempting to build camaraderie amidst the ever-looming doom of tyranny. Steropes, trying to lighten the mood, glances at him with a raised brow. You've half a mind to find one? Good luck. Whose bright idea was it to partner with a paranoid titan anyway? They work together, giants sweating through the magic of sheer willpower and the occasional molten mishap as they prepare for the inevitable chaos to come, thrusting gods and titans into a great cosmic drama filled with melodrama, epic showdowns, and all the ingredients needed for a delightful bedtime story for millions. And while Cronus may think he's at the helm of a great ship on a stormy sea, little does he know, every time he spins in paranoia, it only locks him in an endless loop of dramatic irony. He's working towards a climax that's bound to leave him sharing a cozy corner with some very disgruntled Cyclopes. As you drift off, may you dream of one-eyed wonders forging lightning while simultaneously navigating the power struggle more complex than a modern family reunion. Good night, dear friend. And remember, whether imprisoned or free, find joy in the absurdity of it all. Sweet dreams. Chapter 19, Polyphemus, the Gruff Shepherd. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, where bedtime stories are just as chaotic as trying to follow a recipe while your cat enthusiastically tries to swipe the mixing bowl off the counter. Tonight, we're whipping up something a bit more offbeat than a game of charades, with a bunch of very confused ancient Greeks. A dive into the world of Cyclopes, particularly one rather grumpy fellow named Polyphemus. Now, picture the scene. A rugged shepherd with one eye, dressed perhaps in layers as cozy as a poorly knit sweater. As we roll into this Greek adventure, you might find yourself asking, what did this one-eyed giant possibly do for fun? Did he have a favorite Netflix show before streaming was even a thing? Or did he also struggle to find pants that fit a gargantuan frame and a single eye? Let's face it, the logistics of daily life in ancient Greece for someone with such unique features must have been nothing short of Herculean. So, cozy up, dim those lights, and maybe fluff up that pillow once more. Close your eyes, and let's drift back to somewhere between 800 and 480 BCE, a time when giant sheep herders were the original influencers, minus the social media following and skincare routines. Congratulations! You've just woken up in a rather damp, shadowy cave on the island of Sicily around the homely chimney of a grumpy, one-eyed giant named Polyphemus. As you blink your eyes open, half expecting to see a charming vacation brochure pinned to the wall, reality hits. This cave is not exactly a luxury Airbnb. You glance around. taking in the disorderly stacks of sheep wool, intermingled with an array of sheep. Yes, you heard right. Sheep. Lots and lots of them, with coats so thick they could be used as extra comforters in a snowstorm. It smells like a pungent mixture of wet dog and whatever sheep had for lunch, definitely not on the recommended travel scent list. Just imagine trying to deodorize a wool sweater that had bathed in the Atlantic for a few weeks gag. Polyphemus, who seems to have inspired various fashion faux pas, is sulking with the grace of a teenage boy who just had his phone confiscated. His beard, wildly unkempt and possibly home to a small bird's nest, sways ever so slightly as he adjusts his position like a dissatisfied mountain. Why does everything revolve around these bleeding fools? He grumbles, casting a glare that could curdle milk. Let's talk about being a shepherd, shall we? You'd think it involves a picturesque vista of rolling hills and melodious sheep singing like they're auditioning for The Voice. Spoiler alert, it really doesn't. Instead, it's more like herding some of the world's most obstinate animals that treat every blade of grass as if it were the last morsel before the apocalypse. Ever tried to convince a sheep to move? It's like persuading your cat to take a bath. Good luck with that one. On this particular day, Polyphemus's patience wears thinner than his collection of one-sock wonders. Why do I even bother? He laments. I try to keep these woolly little troublemakers in line, but all they do is stare at me as if I'm the weird one. The irony is rich. He could easily start a podcast about what it's like herding creatures with more drama than a soap opera. The Cyclops has a busy schedule, well, as busy as someone with one eye can manage, we suppose. When he's not stalking around his cave, grumbling about sheep, he's innovating methods of wool production so creative, you'd think he was the Pinterest king of the island. He can spin wool and perhaps even brew a passable mead, all while managing his slew of oversized sheep. Just don't ask him about his social life. He's notoriously single and would probably rate, no, I haven't found someone who can put up with me, as a 9 out of 10 on his most asked questions list. Now, imagine him at a local tavern, trying to find a date. Would you like to see my cave? It's very cozy, I swear. Surely he's attempted that pickup line at least twice, only to be met with side eyes and internal laughter. A true contemporary problem not living up to the grandeur of his one-eyed status. As evening lights start flickering into the cave, illuminating the chaos and the sheer number of sheep that seem to be everywhere, like an uninvited guest who refuses to leave at a party, you can't help but chuckle. One has to ponder if Polyphemus ever wished for a pet rock for company instead. At least rocks don't chew your cud and stare back blankly when asked about their day. He sighs heavily, probably 80% annoyed and 20% wondering if there's a dating app for one-eyed giants adjacent to his cave. At least the sheep listen to me, he says, theatrically rolling his single eye with exaggerated drama. Although, if we were honest, they probably listen to him about as well as most teenagers listen to their parents. And with that delightful thought, you begin to drift off, lulled by Polyphemus's immense grumbles mixed with sheepy bleats, a sleepy harmony so absurd it could only exist in the world of giants and storytelling. Feel free to cuddle up in dreams of one-eyed shepherds and chaotic caves, because if anyone ever said life wasn't mildly interesting, they were mistaken. Sweet dreams. Chapter 20, Shadows and Giants. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, where tonight's exploration is slightly times less terrifying than an unsolicited family gathering. If you thought the last holiday season was awkward, wait until we delve into the dark and creepy world of one-eyed giants who have a penchant for snacking on wayward sailors. Yes, tonight we're snoozing into the murky waters of history, quite literally, where Odysseus and his men find themselves in a cozy cave, covertly spying on Polyphemus, a Cyclops with culinary skills that leave something to be desired. You might be wondering, what on earth do giants eat? Do they use dishes the size of small islands? What does a Cyclops do for entertainment? Sit around gloomily pondering the loss of their other eye? Or, if I lost my sight in one eye, would I also begin to panic shop for contact lenses? We'll dive into these pressing questions, but first, let's dim the lights, pop that fan on, and get cozy. Congratulations. You've just woken up in the sun-drenched yet somewhat terrifying 8th century BCE, where perfecting your dodging skills is essential if you ever plan to leave this cave alive. Yes, that's right. You're nestled in the damp shadows of a cave on the island of Sicily, and by the soft light of Polyphemus's cooking fire, you can just make out the giant's shadow looming over a particularly gourmet-looking sheep leg. Not exactly farm-to-table living. But hey, you can't complain. At least sheep are gluten-free! You pull your cozy blanket closer to you, feeling an uneasy mix of fear and curiosity wash over you as you steal glances at Polyphemus. This giant, arguably more grumpy than terrifying, makes moving mountains seem like child's play. He lumbers around the cave, his enormous frame rattling the very foundations. There's a delightful sort of chaos as he awkwardly navigates his kitchen, the only decor being a collection of sheep skulls hanging from the wall. A real weird trophy vibe. Let's talk about the cooking situation for a moment. The aroma wafting through the cave is, let's say, unrefined. It's a mix of roasting mutton and something like gym socks after a week on the road. Perhaps that's just his special spice blend? Who knew Cyclopes' culinary arts were a burgeoning field? You find yourself wondering how Polyphemus doesn't burn down his cave while attempting to season a meal. Perhaps he takes culinary inspiration from the great chefs of his time, but with a bit more hair and fewer kitchen gadgets. As the smell intensifies, you ponder why Odysseus and his men decided to infiltrate Polyphemus's private dining experience. Was it the allure of giant popovers? Or were they simply curious about how one might roast a sheep while grappling with the existential dread of being a giant with only one eye? Speaking of Odysseus, he peeks out from behind a rock, tiny in comparison to the giant. You can practically hear him think, is this a good idea? Should we just join forces with him and start a food truck business on the beach? Because honestly, wouldn't Times Polyphemus's Pulpit Times be a hit? Imagine folks waiting in line for giant meat skewers while the Cyclops takes selfies with his sheep. Who could resist the charm of that? The men, meanwhile, are huddled like a bunch of frozen peas, their eyes wide as saucers, as they watch this colossal figure prepare a meal that almost guarantees staying under a bad Yelp review. Can you believe the size of that leg? One whispers. Giant's foot? More like giant misstep. A muffled chuckle breaks the silence, the one thing that should remain totally quiet, given the circumstances. Suddenly, Polyphemus lets out a booming laugh that echoes through the cave. More mutton, less meat! And you can't help but think, if only he knew how to sprinkle a little self-deprecation into his culinary routine. But alas, it seems like humility isn't a core ingredient for this one-eyed giant. He's more likely to serve his meals with a side of hubris. The drama unfolds as the meal nears conclusion, and suddenly you're thrust into a scene that feels eerily familiar, like witnessing an awkward family talent show gone wrong. You can almost hear the dreaded, "Who's next?" as the Cyclops prepares to dine alone, cradling his massive plate and contemplating the meaning of existence. Do I eat one more leg, or do I switch to vegetable broth? Such a cliffhanger! As you snuggle deeper into your blanket, you realize that Polyphemus's entertaining culinary choices and existential dilemmas are almost relatable, as absurd as it is. So there you are, on the verge of dreams, lulled by the imagery of a towering shepherd, considering whether to make a mutton stew or reconsider his life choices. And somehow, amid the looming shadow of a grumpy giant, you drift off, cocooned by the delightful absurdity of history's quirkiest characters. Sweet dreams of giant chefs, rumbling laughter, and the whims of one-eyed giants await you. Chapter 21, The Art of Eye Crossing. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, where tonight we're about to delve into something times. Less cataclysmic times than a toddler's meltdown. The art of one-eyed giants. Yes, you heard right, giants, with a penchant for staring too deeply into the void. Our spotlight tonight shines on Polyphemus, a Cyclops who puts the asterisk, fun asterisk, in time's dysfunctional asterisk. So grab that cozy blanket, because we're about to embark on a misadventure where sharpened stakes and questionable decisions reign supreme. Think of it like engaging in a major life crisis, but with more sheep and fewer therapists. This wouldn't be a proper storytelling without questions that hit home harder than your alarm clock on a Monday morning. Ever wondered how one-eyed giants achieve their eye-watering hardships? Do they have an eye test regimen that involves a really angry Zeus? Or perhaps a coach chanting motivational phrases like, "You can do it, Polyphemus. One eye or not, the sheep will fear you. Congratulations." You've just woken up in ancient Greece, circa 800 BCE, a time when myths roamed wild and everyone argued over who had the best set of abs. Spoiler, it was probably some marble statue. You find yourself in a dimly lit cave on the island of Sicily. No Wi-Fi, no gourmet snacks, just you and the distinct aroma of roasting mutton mingling with what can only be described as a certain miasma. Breathe it in. This is the smell of authenticity, my friends. As your eyes adjust to the gloom, you can make out the hulking shadow of Polyphemus, towering like a grumpy, out-of-shape tree. He's currently engaged in a battle of wills with a particularly belligerent sheep leg that does times, not times, want to become dinner. You feel a shiver run down your spine, not from fear, mind you, but because you suddenly remember how your last attempt at cooking ended in smoke and a fire alarm. At least you're not the one with a grumpy one-eyed giant in the kitchen, threatening to smash everything in sight. Let's set the stage. This cave isn't your run-of-the-mill Airbnb. The decor can only be described as rustic, monstrous, with sheep skulls, providing a lovely touch of macabre, ideal for the Cyclopes, who's into DIY, but without the charm. The echoes of Polyphemus's gruff voice bounce off the walls rhythmically, reminding you of your last family gathering when the uninvited uncle launched into his infamous back-in-my-day stories for the 15th time. Now, you might pause to ponder over the daily routine of a Cyclops. What exactly keeps him occupied, and how does he manage to avoid existential dread? Do one-eyed giants attend counseling or perhaps participate in group therapy led by an androgynous centaur? The mind boggles, not to mention the sheer volume of woolly sheep that must hear his woes. Yet, here he stands, fork in hand, pondering the small joys of life like how to skewer your dinner without simultaneously losing a finger in the process. Talk about multitasking talents. But then, wait, something catches your eye. Or rather, catches the Times eye asterisk. Odysseus, that clever little rascal, is peeking from behind one of those ridiculous sheep skulls, probably mulling over whether starting a food blog about thrilling recipes from caves might lead to a network of followers. Forget influencers on Instagram, he might think. The Cyclopes Culinary Chronicles could be the next big thing. Each of his buddies, huddled behind him like goslings in a line, clearly have their own personal fears at play. Will we actually get to taste his food? Or merely be the Times Last Supper asterisk? But let's not kid ourselves. The day is about to take a turn for the absurd. With stealth worthy of your grandmother sneaking cookies from the kitchen, Odysseus concocts a master plan. What could be better than poking a socket-eyed giant in the eye with a sharpened stake while he's distracted by the sheer volumes of mutton he's attempting to consume? Yes, it's all fun and games until one of those mutton legs goes rogue. The moment arrives with a dramatic flair that would make even Homeric poets shed a tear. There you are, at the edge of your seat, as Odysseus gathers his motley crew of equally adventurous sailors to create a triumphant chorus of chaos. Together we are strong, they chant, much like an enthusiastic middle school play, only with far more at stake. Pun fully intended, they drive that sharpened stake into the single, glaring eye of Polyphemus with an enthusiastic bravado that could only be matched by extreme couponers on a Sunday. Suddenly, everything explodes into chaos. The Cyclops lets out a roar that could wake the winds of Olympus itself, trembling the walls of his cozy cave and certainly waking any nearby sheep in a panic. Picture it, an oddly card-dependent outbreak of shouting and blurred rebelliousness, akin to a high school football game after the home team scores the winning goal. What were they thinking? A game of potato sack race suddenly turned into perilously sharp stakes, As you snuggle deeper into your blanket, you realize this isn't just a tale of grumpy giants and blundering sailors. It's an archetype for life's absurdity, where sharpening stakes become metaphors for tackling unfortunate situations. Whether it's paring down those late-night snack cravings or gearing up for the inevitable Monday morning dread. So there you are, lulled by the delightful absurdity of history's quirkiest characters, as Polyphemus continues his melodic curses about the pain of losing not just an eye, but the respect of every sheep within earshot. Sweet dreams of giant stakes, culinary misadventures, and the whimsical chaos of divine retribution await you, Chapter 22, The One-Eyed Fury. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, where tonight we dive headfirst into a tale that's messier than a toddler with spaghetti. The riveting saga of a one-eyed giant who didn't quite land on the happy end of the grumpy giant trope. That's right, we're talking about Polyphemus, the Cyclops who could teach a masterclass on how not to throw a dinner party, or, frankly, how to keep your anger in check. So, cozy up in your favorite spot, grab your self-soothing snack, I assume those are cookies, and let's talk about what it's like to be a one-eyed giant in the wilderness of 800 BCE, where fresh mutton was apparently a necessity, but eye contact was a little more complicated. Have you ever wondered what a frustrated giant might yell into the abyss when he's upset? Do one-eyed fellows go through life scouting out other one-eyed creatures for some sort of mutual support? Or is it more like a "you'll never understand my pain" situation? Can you imagine Polyphemus at a group therapy circle, chewing on a mutton leg while sharing his anxiety over time's relationship issues? Asterisk. Yes, asterisk, that times escalated quickly. Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in a cave on the Mediterranean coast of Sicily, clinging to your sanity in a world where sheep are the most stable relationship you'll ever have. As your eyes adjust to the dimness, you see the brooding shadow of Polyphemus standing at the mouth of his cave, a magnificent, albeit furious, hulking creature seething at the retreating ships of Odysseus. Talk about a dramatic exit! The scene before you is chaotic. Polyphemus, covered in a tragic blend of blood and grime. Seriously, it's like he's been wrestling with mud pies and lost. Towers near the entrance, hands outstretched, like he's dramatically enacting the worst audition for a Greek tragedy. You can almost hear him bellowing curses like a disgruntled postman, where every letter that gets misdelivered brings the wrath of Zeus crashing down. "Cursed be the gallivanting Greeks," he bellows, not quite realizing that his real enemy might just be the outcome of that last dinner attempt. As you peer closer, the distinct aroma of mutton wafts past your nose. Yes, folks, raw meat is very much front and center in this bear pit of frustration. The giant's chaotic kitchen, aka his cave, is a spectacle. Picture any cooking show gone bizarrely awry, where instead of chopped vegetables, you find sheep skulls hanging like glorious trophies of culinary mismanagement. Think it's just a detail? No, my friend. That's the ambiance he's created. Perfect ambiance for a giant with zero cooking skills, but an abundance of appetite. The resonating echoes of Polyphemus's disgruntled howls make you wonder whether they could compete with thunder itself. It's like a chant of existential dread. Why do ships keep fleeing? Why can't I seem to master the culinary arts? Is cringing a viable form of self-defense? And honestly, the more you think about it, it's the very essence of asterisk. Asterisk chaotic kitchen drama, asterisk, amplified by one massive eye glaring down at the tiny, unprepared world below. And while you're lost in thought about how to pitch Cooking with Cyclopes as a reality show, you're suddenly halted by a wave of clarity. Odysseus, that opportunistic fellow with the brain of a fox and the moral compass of a greased pig, is lurking out of sight behind one of those questionable sheep skulls. What elaborate scheme is he concocting now? It's evident the wily hero is looking to execute a plan that's as shady as Polyphemus on a bad day. He's gathered his band of equally reckless sailors to share a hushed plot about how blinding a giant could possibly lead to the countdown clock of great adventures, or, at the very least, save their tiny skins. Ah, the joys of human improvisation against a backdrop of one-eyed time's chaos. Together, the sailors huddle and plot a scene eerily reminiscent of a group project where nobody wants to do the heavy lifting, but everyone secretly hoping to secure a free lunch at the end. After a series of whispers that would make a librarian cry, they decide their fate hinges on a sharpened stake and a well-timed distraction. What could possibly go wrong? As they tiptoe like a herd of beleaguered penguins, the air thickens as Polyphemus groans contemplatively, possibly debating the ethicality of steak knives versus chops. Suddenly, a comical shriek erupts as Odysseus drives that sharpened stake directly into Polyphemus's singular eye, achieving what we might call in times instantaneous vibe check asterisk, ensuring not just physical blindness, but a cerebral awareness of culinary failure. The Cyclops roars in agony, his bellow echoing through the mountains like an obnoxious alarm clock that just won't quit. You could almost envision the nearby wildlife packing up their tiny creatures' bags and relocating like a localized exodus, prompted by loud, inappropriate Yelp reviews. Sister sheep scatter. It's pure anarchy as Odysseus' crew hustles around, each parading their own absurd fears and bewildered expressions, all captured in the most hilarious Greek fiasco this side of Olympus. But as self-respecting adults, we know that the great twist always leaves a deliciously bitter taste, because why can't Polyphemus, despite all his woes, manage to keep it together? It seems that the moral of the convoluted tale is simpler than anticipated. Whether you're a one-eyed giant or an even tinier sailor, the stakes are always high when your friends are idiots and dinner plans get derailed by ill-timed heroics. So let's lean back and appreciate the absurdity of life, where the most dramatic scenes often leave us feeling like a punchline, a bit blurry, but undeniably hell-bent on getting to wherever tomorrow might lead us. Now that you've had a taste of chaos, imagine drifting into slumber, where the only giants you have to contend with are your own overcooked thoughts. Sweet dreams await, my friend. Chapter 23, The Thunderous Grief of Apollo. Hey guys, welcome back to our calming corner of absurd history, where we dive into tales that are wilder than your Aunt Myrtle after a glass of wine. Tonight, we unravel a yarn filled with one-eyed giants, lightning bolts, and a god who's having a really bad day, much like a Monday morning, without coffee. So get cozy, dim the lights, and prepare for something as unexpectedly delightful as discovering a forgotten snack in your couch cushions. But before we hop in, why don't you take a moment to like and subscribe? Only if you actually enjoy this, of course! Otherwise, consider it a wildly optimistic gesture. So, grab that soft blanket, let the fan set just the right vibe, and let's contemplate life in the era of myth and monsters. Have you ever wondered what would happen if a god lost his cool in a world where everyone already had a lot on their plates? What do you think the one-eyed giants mused about during their downtime, perhaps debating the best way to become career baristas instead? And if a Cyclops were to ever throw a pity party, how many sheep would he invite? Would it be awkward when the cakes fell into the mouth of, well, living mutton? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 800 BCE, where the sun is lazily peeking over the hills, bathing the landscape in golden light, and the air smells faintly of burning sheep, which, let's be honest, might be an improvement. Picture it. You're standing in a rocky, secluded landscape that looks like the set of a low-budget monster movie. As you emerge from your slumber, you find yourself beneath the shadow of a dramatic mountain range, like nature's own theatrical backdrop, accented by a dramatic score of distant thunder. Who needs Netflix, right? But wait, this isn't just any mountain. It's the home of the Cyclopes, where clouds rumble ominously with the weight of unprocessed grievances and the occasional existential crisis. Suddenly, you hear a commotion. A figure looms ahead, and it's none other than Apollo, the god of music, prophecy, and that thing we all know, sibling rivalry. Today, he's playing the role of an oddly flamboyant avenger, standing with a stance that says, "I've just found out that my favorite coffee shop has closed down." Yes, this isn't just any routine godly visit. This is a classic Apollo confronts an overdramatic Cyclops moment. And oh, does it have the makings of a divine tragedy. Now, let's talk about Apollo's current emotional palette. Picture a color wheel filled with every shade of ire. You've got annoyed, infuriated, and the ever-popular I can't even, all blending into a fiery hue that rivals the sunset. Seems his cherished son, Asclepius, a name that rolls off the tongue like mutton on a fork, has just met an untimely end, courtesy of a lightning bolt flung carelessly by a familiar face, Zeus. Classic family dynamics, right? The bickering, the miscommunication, and everyone's favorite, the unexpected consequences. Sensing a grudge brewing quicker than a pot of forgotten soup, Apollo stalks over to the cave where the Cyclopes are busy, well, forging things. Yes, rather than sending out sorrowful invites for a wake, these one-eyed giants are more focused on crafting the tools of the gods. And wait for it, yes, that includes Zeus's lightning bolts. Talk about a little accidental irony. It's like baking bread and accidentally introducing it to a wood chipper. You might think this scene is set to a drum roll of anticipation. But alas, it's not quite the dramatic showdown of heroes and villains you're picturing. It's more like a passive-aggressive family dinner, where everyone is trying to avoid eye contact, except for the Cyclops, who's only got one of those. As you observe, you catch a whiff of the bizarre aroma wafting from the cave. A mix of burnt offerings and the unfortunate smell of one. Sheep, a combination best described as rustic, ancient disaster stew. You try not to gag as you watch Apollo's righteous fury escalate, full of gestures that are more theatrical than a puppet show gone wrong. You forged your last thunderbolt, you oversized meatball, he roars, his voice echoing through the mountains, sending birds flapping away in panic as if they've just discovered their favorite tree was being turned into firewood. You can practically hear the eye roll from the Cyclops, who appears utterly nonplussed by the whole scene, too consumed in smoothing down his latest creation, a lightning bolt aesthetically shaped like an overly ambitious pretzel. What's a guy gotta do for some gratitude around here? He seems to mutter, resigning himself to the cycle of divine family spats. As the drama continues, you have to appreciate the irony. Apollo's grief is louder than Zeus's thunder, and the Cyclops is left to wonder if perhaps the real tragedy is the sheer awkwardness that every divine being feels at family gatherings. Will the one-eyed giant ever be able to shake the stigma of being branded as that guy who angered Apollo? Only time will tell. And perhaps a very well-placed apology. Just imagine the awkward repartee at the godly dinner table. Apollo scowling over there, the Cyclops trying to keep his cool, and Que Cristobal's sheep grazing contently, blissfully unaware that they might be part of a post-mortem menu. What's on the agenda? Tonight's special is grumpy Cyclops stew with a side of vengeful god despair. As your mind drifts through this cacophony of chaos, do you find comfort in the idea that in ancient times, even mythological figures had to deal with the emotional labor that comes with grief, outrage, and the reality that family dinners can get pretty intense even if you're immortal? So take a breath and let it all go. After all, you're cozy in your own imaginary space where you can escape the chaos of divine drama and this eternal fracas of sibling rivalry. Sweet dreams await. Chapter 24. The Steadfast Cyclopes and their Forged Creations. Hey guys! Welcome back to our charming little nook of mildly interesting insanity, where we take history and sprinkle it with a bit of absurdity like confetti at a toddler's birthday party. Tonight, we're journeying more, like stumbling into the world of the Cyclopes, those one-eyed wonders who've made craftsmanship seem like a mythological art form. So dim your lights, fluff your pillows, and let's drift into a tale, including fire, thunder, and the questionable life choices of giants who just wanted to forge a better tomorrow. But before we dive headfirst into this cosmic adventure, let's take a moment to engage in a little call to action, because of course, engagement matters. If you enjoy what you hear, consider liking, subscribing, or even commenting, but only if you're feeling generous. You know, like a benevolent Greek god after a successful thunderbolt slinging session. Now, let's get settled. Grab that cozy blanket, switch on the fan to create an ambiance, because nothing says relaxation like a gentle breeze mimicking a mild Greece stress wave. As we prepare to kick off the epic tale of the Cyclopes, let's ponder some absurd yet relatable questions. Ever wondered what it's like to be a one-eyed giant in a world filled with sibling rivalries? Do they have cyclopean disputes over whose turn it is to sharpen the anvil? Or do they just stand around claiming the other can't see the finer details? And what must it have been like for a Cyclops to participate in family bonding activities? The lack of depth perception must make simple games like pin the tail on the sheep a serious logistical nightmare. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the rough and tumble world of the Cyclopes back between 800 BCE and 480 BCE, a time rich with mythology and mischief. Picture it. You're nestled deep in the bowels of a mountainous cave, surrounded by clanging metal, the smell of scorching rock, and oddly enough, the lingering scent of burnt sheep wool. It's like a cheese shop exploded in a foundry while simultaneously hosting a barbecue, an aroma that's somewhere between pleasant and please, for the love of Zeus. Open a window! Now, if you glance around, you'll see our Cyclopean friends hard at work, with arms like tree trunks and expressions that say, I'm perpetually disappointed in my lack of peripheral vision. These giants are nothing if not industrious. They labor endlessly at their anvils, forging tools for the gods, while debating the pressing issues of the day. Should Zeus add extra lightning sparkles? Or would that be too much? One might say, his voice rhythmic with the sound of hammers hitting metal, a symphony conducted by sheer muscle and a singular focus. Ah, the rich soundscape of creation. Each clang of metal provides lyrical ambience to your surroundings, reminding you of a very aggressive jazz band where all the musicians have only a single eye. You might think to yourself, ever tried playing the spoons with one hand while juggling mutton chops? It's a lot like this, except for the mutton. These giants might accidentally fling a sheep into the forge. What a tragedy. That would be a woolly casualty of ambition. But here's the kicker. Amidst all the smoke and chaos, you can't help but marvel at the determination of these Cyclopes largely unnoticed, eternally working in the shadows of Olympus. You'd think they'd at least inspire some hashtags. Imagine number Forgers of Thunder or number One-Eyed Wonders. Alas, they remain lost to history's whims, subjects of tales barely whisper soft in archaic corners. Let's set our scene just a little more. The light from the forge glows warmly, flickering like the lantern at your grandma's Sunday dinner that she swears hasn't been replaced since '98. Shadows dance on the cave walls, creating silhouettes that could easily be confused for sinister characters from a low-budget horror flick. Seriously, this could be a Cyclopean thriller titled The Cyclops Who Became a Carpenter, a genuine tragedy. And isn't it just tantalizing to think about their life? Working tirelessly, forging the very lightning bolts that Zeus hurls down on ungrateful mortals? Talk about a job where you earn your keep. After dealing with all that divine drama, these giants would certainly need a break. One casualty of their magnificent creations being the myth that crafting thunderbolts is all fun and games. Imagine the pressure. Hey, Cyclopes, how's that lightning coming? Oh, just dandy. I made one that can start a small forest fire. Hope Zeus is looking for that special spark today. But being a Cyclops isn't all strife and hammering. At the end of the day, they face the same existential crises we all do, questioning the very meaning of existence. Is it really fulfilling to simply hand over our creations to Set? Zeus? One might ponder, looking around for some cosmic guidance, or perhaps just something to nibble on. Yet still, there's beauty in their toil, a quiet resilience woven into the fabric of their fated stories, chasing greatness in a world where giants went unrecognized. They keep hammering away, proving to us all like that one friend who insists on crafting the perfect pumpkin spice latte in a universe that simply doesn't care that perseverance is key. And sometimes it takes one giant with a singular eyesight and a heart of iron to complete the grand tapestry of history, even if no one remembers their name. So as you drift further into slumber, take a moment to embrace the echoes of forgotten giants, the Cyclopes who, despite being overlooked, continue to forge their place in the very foundation of myth. Somewhere in the shadows of history, they still hammer on, crafting thunder, waiting for someone to recognize their extraordinary existence. Now that's a journey, worth dreaming about. Sweet dreams await. Chapter 25. The enigmatic Sphinx upon her lonely rock. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner of quirky history, where monumental tales mix with a splash of zany humor. Tonight, we're perched on the precipice of mystery, spying a serene figure sitting atop a rocky pedestal, ready to challenge unsuspecting travelers with her conundrums. Yes, you guessed it. It's time to trot down the whimsical memory lane of the Sphinx, the riddle maker whose cat-like grace could put any feline influencer to shame, and who certainly kept the job market for philosophers alive and kicking. But before we dive headfirst into this enigmatic world, much like that one friend who jumps into the pool without looking, let's have a little heart-to-heart. If you enjoy these historical ramblings sprinkled with absurdity, consider giving us a thumbs up, clicking that lovely subscribe button, or dropping an amusing comment, but only if you genuinely feel that sweet, amusing connection, like a surprise visit to see your favorite aunt serving homemade cookies, even when she accidentally uses salt instead of sugar. Now, let's settle in. Dim those lights, lean back into that cozy retreat, and let's unravel the threads of riddle and myth as we dive deeper into the ancient world. As we float through time, take a moment to ponder. What must it have been like to encounter the Sphinx? Did she have a booming voice or a soft, mysterious whisper? Ever imagine waking up to find her perched above your bed declaring, "What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 in the evening?" Or maybe you just wanted to grab a snack. Surely, she must have delighted in seeing how confused people could get while trying to guess the meaning of life, or the best way to fold a fitted sheet. Congratulations! You've just woken up somewhere between 800 BCE and 480 BCE, amidst grand temples and bustling marketplaces echoing with the spirited debates of philosophers. You might, to even catch snatches of cheerful merchants hawking funky pottery as slightly confused Athenians scratch their heads, most likely pondering why one must choose between capable cats or impenetrable riddles. Honestly, it feels a bit like waking up at a weird family reunion, where you know everyone, but can't remember where you filed those memories. So, here you are, not just an observer, but an integral part of this mythic tapestry. Look around. Imagine the sun casting golden rays over a cluster of citizens, tentatively sipping on what can best be described as slightly fermented grape juice, the local delicacy often accompanied by questionable dance moves. You wouldn't dare mock them. Who knows what could happen if you fluffed up an ancient tumbler of vintage. What's that smell? Let's focus our lens on the Sphinx. She looms brilliantly on her rocky throne, a composite vision of feline elegance and a slightly unnecessary pair of wings, with her lioness body coiled like a cat that's just spotted a mouse, or possibly an ill-fated traveler. She gazes off into the cosmos, presumably contemplating the mysteries of the universe or the next season of reality TV. How we envy her calm demeanor. In a world filled with vexing puzzles, at least she can take a nap whenever the philosophical debates get too intense. Ah, what sound hangs in the air, you ask? It's the gentle rustling of parchment as philosophers, scribes, and other dubious figures assemble nearby to ponder questions that may help them avoid the Sphinx's wrath. What is truth? And why do I keep mistaking mustard for honey? One might wonder aloud, only to receive a glance from the Sphinx that clearly says, "Please! This isn't a cooking class!" As you approach, your heart flutters with anticipation. A mix of curiosity and mild panic. She's a creature of layers, every inch of her wrapped in the enigma of riddles that shake the deepest foundations of a man's self-esteem. Ah, a traveler. She muses with an eyebrow, which she definitely has. Trust me. What is it that seeks to find answers, but often trips over its own feet? You stand frozen, realizing she might be onto something, like every time you forget where you parked your chariot. And it's here, standing at the crossroads of your absurd journey, that you grasp the genius of the Sphinx. This iconic being is trained in the ancient art of riddleology, ensuring that anyone who wishes to pass must sift through their own layers of wit and witticism. Imagine, for a moment, asking someone to solve a riddle before they discover that their phone battery is dying. Talk about modern-day tension. As the challenge hangs in the air, it's almost comical how a slip-up could lead to an ignominious fate. Answer correctly, or I shall devour you, she proclaims, pause lingering between her seemingly mystical words. Yet you can't help but wonder about the logistics of that. Does she have a cookbook? Does it involve seasoning? Just how do you prepare someone for dinner without resorting to takeout? In the end, this tale of trickery, depth, and a sprinkling of philosophical inquiry is not just about the travelers who failed to answer correctly. It's really more about every poorly timed joke or the awkward pause you encountered during your own family gatherings where someone mispronounces quinoa. The truth is, we all wrestle with our own riddles. So as you settle deeper into slumber, allow the serenade of the Sphinx's riddles to wash over you. Reflect on how each moment in the past, tangled in myth and mischief, leads to the delightful absurdity of our present. Sweet dreams, dear travelers, sweet dreams await in the land of riddles and enigmas. And now, as we step away from the roaring forges, the crackling fire, the echo of hammers, and the wonderfully unhinged world of one-eyed giants, let your breath fall into something slower, softer, warmer. Tonight, we wandered through a cosmos still learning how to exist, a universe stitched together by thunder, molten stone, and three giants who argued about snacks while forging weapons capable of splitting mountains. We watched lightning take shape long before Zeus ever held it. We saw giants bicker, titans panic, and entire caverns glow with the strange mix of brilliance and chaos that only myth can produce. We walked beside beings who were older than the gods themselves, creatures who worked in darkness, who endured fear, imprisonment, and cosmic family drama that would make any holiday gathering look peaceful. And yet, they kept going. They kept creating. They kept laughing, even when everything around them shook. There's something quietly beautiful in that, even in myth, in fire, and stone. And the earliest heartbeat of creation, there is resilience. There is humor. There is the reminder that existence has always been messy, loud, unpredictable, and still somehow full of wonder. Now take a moment to feel gratitude for your own world, a world where no titan is pacing above you, no molten metal is splashing near your feet, and no giant is shouting about missing socks or overdue snacks. Your room is still, your pillow soft, your night calm. Let that calm sink deeper into your muscles. Let the last sparks of the forge fade behind your eyelids. Let every rumble soften into a peaceful hum. You're safe. You've done enough. And unlike the Cyclopes, you don't have to forge a thunderbolt before sunrise. Close your eyes, breathe deep, and drift gently into sleep. The forge is quiet now. Rest.